Chapter 1275. After hearing that, Yihua didn't say anything. I know what my mother means, I'll just let my mother go. Qingye asked curiously. Yihua, what exactly happened when we were not around? It's a bit troublesome, I'll tell you when I go to the hotel tonight. Yihua said lightly. He didn't want his mother to worry about him. After all, the current crisis has not been completely eliminated yet. After hearing that, Qingye became heavy. For Yihua to say that it's troublesome, it should be a big problem. After arriving at the hotel, Lu Jing needed to rest for a bit. And when the four women arrived at Yihua's room, Qingye and the others wanted to hear what exactly happened. Yihua, what exactly happened? Qingye sat at the bedside and lightly held onto Yihua's hand. She felt that Yihua seemed to be very tired. Yihua told the three women about what happened, and the three women went into a daze. So many things happened during these few days. Fortunately, all of Yihua's subordinates have gathered together, and this can be counted as a good news. However, why does Qingye feel that Yi's death seems to be caused by the fight between Yihua and that palace master? The fight between the two actually destroyed the entire plane. Just how terrifying is that? Wei Chang still has such a brain, not bad, he deceived all of us. Qingye sighed. After hearing that, Yihua smiled helplessly. That's right, this Wei Chang is indeed ruthless this time, he deceived all of us. Qin Yuqing asked gravely. Yihua, just who is that fortune teller? To actually be able to predict the ending thousands of years ago. He might just be making things up. Qin Yutong felt that Yihua was just a scammer. Qingye immediately knocked on her head. Then why don't you make something up for Big Sister to see? Qin Yutong pouted her mouth and said petulantly, Big Sister, I'm so stupid, it's all because you knocked on my head. As for what this fortune teller is, we might find out in the future. Yihua said faintly. This should be counted as a surprise, I wonder if it will be a scare or not. Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice. Right now, the main problem is still with the guardian. Qingye nodded her head. This matter cannot be looked down upon. Yihua stood up and walked to the balcony at the side. Looking at the mountain outside, he said faintly, Let's talk about these things after we return, we came out this time to relax. Qingye hugged Yihua from behind and said tenderly, Let's face this together when we return. Yihua held onto Qingye's small hand, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Next, Yihua listened to Qingye and the others talk about the interesting things that happened during the past few days. 1 hour later, Yihua prepared to bring his whole family to Shirley Art Gallery to play. However, he heard from the tour guide that it would be better to rent a scooter, that way it would be more convenient. Yihua had never ridden an electric scooter before, so he felt that he could give it a try. 3 electric scooters were just nice. However, the problem was that all 4 of his wives wanted to sit behind Yihua. At this time, Qingye displayed magnanimity and gave the opportunity to the other 3. However, a problem came. Yihua actually doesn't know how to ride on 2 wheels. This caused Qin Yutong to laugh out loud, and even Lu Jing laughed out loud. So it turns out that there are still things that Yihua doesn't know how to do. Yihua was very embarrassed. A dignified supreme overlord, an existence that would destroy an entire plane at the slightest provocation, actually doesn't know how to ride an electric scooter. After trying a few times, Yihua felt that it was better to give up. But now the problem was, who was Yihua going to sit behind? Qingye was still Qin Yutong was still the empress. Qin Yuqing doesn't know how to ride an electric scooter either. Looking at the 3 women, in the end, Yihua still chose to sit behind his sister-in-law. Qin Yutong was very happy, and she even provoked her big sister and the empress a bit. This caused Qingye and Donghuang Baiji to gnash their teeth in anger. This Qin Yutong, just you wait. Lu Jing looked at her son and daughter-in-law quarreling with each other and felt very happy. After choosing, Qingye took out her phone and navigated to Shirley Art Gallery. I heard that that place is rather fun, and there are even delicious free-range chickens. Of course, whether or not it is free-range chickens, I don't know. This was the first time that Yihua rode on this kind of transportation tool, and it seemed a bit special. Especially when other men saw him, their eyes seemed to be saying, to actually let a woman ride on you, you are simply not a man at all. Furthermore, it is such a beautiful woman, this is truly making one feel despair. There are also a lot of beautiful women at the side. Is this a concentration camp for beautiful women? They are definitely not together. Switch, switch. Yihua had already hugged enough and decided to switch to another hug. The surrounding men saw Yihua coming down from the carriage, then riding on another woman and hugging onto another woman. She felt like killing someone. This shameless man was actually taking turns to hug her. He was simply goddamn. Let's go and eat first. Lu Jing said lightly. Yihua felt that it was fine. Let's go and eat first, then play. I heard that there are even hot air balloons and the like here. Although I am flying every day, hot air balloons are also quite romantic. Yihua decided to bring his wife to try it out later on. If not, people will always say that I, the Supreme Overlord, don't know how to be romantic. These women's requirements are simply too high. After walking into a shop that had a lot of people at the roadside, before they even entered the shop, an auntie ran over. "Handsome guy, beautiful girl, have you bought the tickets yet? I have cheap tickets here." Does Yihua look like someone who lacks money? That doesn't exist. However, the auntie was a bit persistent as she chased after Yihua and said, "The tickets for this hot air balloon are the lowest in the entire venue, 80 yuan per person. Bring the lady up to experience it. There are also helicopters and so on." Do you need me to say it a second time? Yihua's temper immediately flared up, and his gaze turned cold. The auntie could feel that Yihua's gaze was not good, and immediately ran away. Under normal circumstances, Yihua wouldn't act like this, but he was a bit annoyed in his heart, and thus he wasn't able to control himself. "Yihua, that's enough. It's not easy for others, just talk nicely," Lu Jing said in a low voice. Yihua didn't say anything and nodded his head. Mother's words are still useful. If it was Qingya's words, then I would have directly ignored it. This was the difference between a mother and a wife. "Boss, do you want to eat something?" A big sister ran over and asked with a smile. "Do you have any signature dishes here?" Yihua asked faintly while holding onto the menu. "We have beer fish here, all of them are local fish. We also have lotus leaf chicken, bamboo tube chicken, etc. What do you want to order?" Yihua was too lazy to look at the menu and said faintly, "Give me a bit of all of them." This caused the lady boss to be a bit stupefied. "How much is a bit? What if I give too much and I'm not satisfied?" Qingya took over the menu and said with a slight smile, "Give me a serving of all of these signature dishes. The fish must have no bones." "Alright, please wait for a moment." The lady boss immediately went to prepare the dishes. Seeing that Yihua's expression wasn't very good, Qingya said tenderly, "Yihua, since you are already out to play, just be happy." Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said faintly, "I understand." Chapter 1276. After taking out a stick of cigarette and lighting it up, Yihua leaned against the chair. His gaze was still a bit grave, not knowing why. "I keep thinking about the curse of the palace master." However, upon thinking about the curse of the palace master, Yihua wished that he could scold himself. The curse of a defeated opponent, why should I be afraid? Thinking about it, Yihua wasn't concerned about the curse of the palace master. Rather, he was concerned about the person who placed the curse on the palace master. After all, tens of thousands of years ago, the palace master knew that he was going to die and said those words before he died. Is it true or false? Is that fortune teller that awesome? Or could it be, he is just bluffing? This made me a bit vexed. Originally, I wanted to use this trip to relax and not think about this problem, but I discovered that I am basically unable to get rid of this problem. "Yihua, why is your expression so strange?" Qian Yuqing asked worriedly. She discovered that Yihua's expression was a bit strange. Yihua shook his head, expressing that he is fine. "How can I possibly be scared? That is something impossible." Lu Jing suddenly asked, "Yihua, are you afraid of something?" Along with Lu Jing's words, everyone went into a daze. In the eyes of Qingya and the others, would Yihua be afraid? Yihua is that kind of fellow who is not afraid of anything. The word, afraid, doesn't exist in his heart at all. Thus, they didn't think that Yihua was afraid. However, Yihua suddenly came to a realization. "I'm actually afraid." Yihua's breathing became a bit hurried. "Why would I have such an emotion? I have felt afraid in the past, but that kind of fear was because I was afraid of losing them. The quarrel at the beginning was very vexing. But what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of death?" Yihua wasn't afraid of death. When a person has someone to rely on, they wouldn't dare to easily die. Yihua was afraid of what would happen to his mother after he died, what would happen to Qingya and the others, what would happen to his children, and what would happen to his subordinates. However, Yihua didn't know what was going on in his mind and was currently thinking about his own emotions. "I feel that I am losing face. I am actually afraid. What the hell?" "The dishes are here, boss. Enjoy slowly." The passionate lady boss could be seen serving the dishes. Qin Yutong obediently placed the bowls and chopsticks on the table. Yihua let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly threw away that feeling of fear. Afterward, I thought to myself, that doesn't exist. It's impossible for me to be afraid. Who else in this world can defeat me? This beer fish is not bad. Yihua, try it. Lu Jing picked up a piece of fish and passed it to her son. Yihua squeezed out a smile, a very ugly smile. Qingya and the others could clearly feel the change in Yihua, and they thought to themselves, this fellow. He can't be really afraid, right? Yihua noticed Qingya's gaze and immediately glared at her. What is she thinking about? I, the Supreme Overlord, am not afraid. However, this spearfish is really not bad, and it doesn't have any bones, and it melts upon entering the mouth. Qing Yutong tore off a chicken drumstick and gave it to Yihua. Brother-in-law, this lotus leaf chicken is rather fragrant too. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head. I have to let Blood Demon learn it. This spearfish soup mixed with rice is pretty good. Yihua, you should give it a try as well, it's really not bad. After speaking, Donghuang Baiji scooped some rice for Yihua, and she even poured some fish soup into the bowl and began stirring it. Yihua took the rice that the Empress personally mixed with rice and tasted it. The taste is indeed not bad. Just now, I was still thinking of not eating it. In the end, scoop more rice for me. Yihua felt that the rice was really fragrant. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Yihua prepared to go and sit on a hot air balloon, ride on an electric scooter and enjoy the cool breeze. Feels pretty good. Suddenly, a stench entered Yihua's nose, and even the body fragrance that was coming from his sister-in-law's body was unable to cover up the stench. Where did you two run to? Yihua, who was originally leaning on his sister-in-law's back, was about to fall asleep. This is a shortcut. This place seems to be a place for riding horses. This place is filled with horse dung. Qing Yutong held her breath. This place is so smelly. Yihua was also speechless. Why did you two want to take a shortcut? So boring? Yihua immediately used Qing Yutong's clothes to cover his nose. This place smells so much better. Qing Yutong was also speechless. This brother-in-law? Only Yihua would be able to do such a thing. If another man were to try this, he would have long been scolded by his wife. The bumpiness of the road also began, and Yihua felt that he was going to vomit. Is this a vacation or is this a torture? I, the Supreme Overlord, really want to flatten this place to the ground, that way the road wouldn't be so steep anymore. This electric scooter also doesn't have a good shockproof. It is shaking to the point that I am going to vomit. After lunch. After quite a while, the hot air balloon finally arrived, and there was even a glider at the side. Rumbling sounds could be heard coming from the air. Yihua stood at the side and his face was a bit pale. A dignified Supreme Overlord actually ended up like this because of an electric scooter. The main thing is that I ate too much and that fish was basically eaten by Yihua. I will go and buy the tickets. Qian Yuqing smiled slightly, then ran to buy the tickets. After that, everyone walked into the venue. The problem came again. To actually make me, the Supreme Overlord, queue up. When did I, the Supreme Overlord, ever queue up? Recently, my temper hasn't been good. It's best if you don't make me queue up. If not, I will make you, this hot air balloon, explode. Yihua, sit down, I will give you a massage. Qingya said tenderly. She knew that Yihua was currently very angry, so she planned to use tenderness to let Yihua cool down. Yihua sat down helplessly and accepted Qingya's kind intentions. Qian Yuqing, who was at the side, even placed Yihua's legs onto her body and lightly massaged them. This kind of treatment made everyone at the side stupefied. Is this even possible? Lowering his head and looking at his body. Why is the difference between my legs and my girlfriend's legs so big? After waiting for around 40 minutes, Yihua brought along his mother and wife and walked into the venue. Afterward, Qingya and the others sat on the hot air balloon. Qingya and the others, on the other hand, were very happy. However, after ascending for less than a minute, Yihua felt that he was descending, and he immediately became unhappy. I have waited for 40 minutes painstakingly down there, yet you just let me stand here for 1 minute. Seeing that Yihua was about to flip out, the wives could only comfort Yihua. How big is this matter? Yihua is getting more and more calculative. Yihua rubbed his forehead, then walked down from the hot air balloon and said gravely, in the future, don't let me sit on this thing, trash. Lu Jing smiled helplessly after hearing this, and the other wives also shook their heads. His temper was really bad. Other than them, who else could stand it? Originally, Yihua still wanted to go and experience the glider that was at the side, but after thinking about it, if I wait for half an hour and stroll around on the glider for a few minutes, wouldn't I be making a huge loss? Isn't it great for me to fly up there and take a look? I don't even need to queue up. Let's go and take a look at the other things. Yihua said gravely and directly sat behind the Empress. Because the car was rather short, and Yihua was rather tall, Yihua's sitting posture was rather funny. Chapter 1277. Afterward, everyone went to visit all of 10 Miles Art Gallery's scenic spots, other than the ones that were queuing up. Yihua would turn around whenever he saw them. Qingya and the others blushed with shame. I might as well not come, this is truly vexing. Luckily, it wasn't the peak season for tourists, most of them didn't need to queue up. However, Yihua discovered that, other than looking and looking even after entering the karst cave twice, the feeling was still exactly the same. And his mother and wife were actually enjoying themselves, to the point that they even let me come and take a picture. Forget about taking a picture, but after taking a picture they even said that my technique is really not that good. I just wanted to say that. If you have the ability, then turn off the beauty filter, don't think that I didn't see it. Let's go to the West Street to eat. Yihua said gravely. Compared to looking, Yihua wanted to eat something more interesting. Qingya smiled and said, Yihua, you haven't tried the river snail rice noodles here, right? What is river snail rice noodles? Yihua asked puzzledly. This was the first time he heard of it. Qing Yutong laughed. Brother-in-law, you will know after you try it. Yihua nodded his head. Since it was recommended by them, it shouldn't be too bad. After arriving at the West Street, it was already 7 p.m. Yihua looked at the crowd in front of him and suddenly thought of a movie that he watched a few years ago. Maybe Slayer Tyrant is a good person. If he disappeared, how good would that be? I suddenly don't want to go anymore. Yihua, let's go and print some clothes. Before Yihua could even react, Donghuang Baiji pulled Yihua and ran to the 3D printing shop at the side. Seeing the shop owner's enthusiastic recommendation, Qingya and the others immediately fell for it. Yihua really wanted to knock their heads. What fun is there in this? In the end, he still couldn't change his mother's mind and got a family photo printed on the shop. And all of them were changed. Originally, Yihua was wearing a shirt, but now it became a short-sleeved shirt. Yihua didn't like this kind of feeling. It made me seem as if I wasn't calm enough. Looking at the surrounding ladies, the way they look at me is all weird. They are all too daring. How is my body something that you all can look up to? Handsome, let's take a picture together. Without waiting for Yihua to react, a lady at the side left. A few black lines appeared on Yihua's forehead. These women actually plagiarized my appearance without my consent. Who knew if these women would come out in the middle of the night with a photo of themselves and do something that would make people's hair stand on end? Just thinking about it makes me a little dizzy. Alright, don't be angry anymore, it's just a small matter, we aren't even jealous. Qingya laughed tenderly. Other people don't even have the time to laugh, and Yihua is actually still angry? When did I get angry? Don't talk nonsense. Okay. You're not angry. Let's go eat some noodles. Yihua nodded his head and decided to go and have a taste. After quite a while, Yihua looked at the bowl of river snail rice noodles in front of him, and a strange stench was being emitted out from it. Yihua's brows were already wrinkled very deeply. Lu Jing covered her mouth and chuckled. It was obvious that this was a prank. Yihua said gravely, Qingya, is this the delicacy that you were talking about? Yihua, this is the same principle as stinky tofu. Why don't you try it? It is actually very fragrant. Qingya laughed while covering her mouth. Yihua didn't believe that the stench of stinky tofu was different from this. This stinky tofu smelled just like sh*t. I don't have any appetite anymore. Yihua said gravely, then directly walked out of the restaurant. It doesn't matter whose face is anymore. Qingya was prepared to chase after Yihua, but Lu Jing stopped her. Let him walk by himself. Lu Jing said in a low voice. Yihua needed to be alone to calm down. Yihua indeed needed to be alone to calm down. My mind is a bit messy. I really want to find someone to talk to, but if I talk to my wife, it makes me seem like I am very weak. If I talk to my subordinates, it makes me, the boss, look like I am very weak. If I talk to my children, where would I, the supreme overlord as a father, have any face left? Handsome guy, our bar is having a discount today, and there is even a famous DJ. A sexy lady said towards Yihua. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Such a handsome man. Yihua turned his head and looked towards the bar at the side. The bar was very noisy. Yihua didn't like this kind of bar. Yihua liked a quiet bar. Under the lady's deathly gaze, Yihua walked away. Yihua, who was walking within the crowd, was still so eye-catching. Along the way there were a lot of ladies who tried to strike up a conversation with him, but Yihua just had a scowl on his face, not giving any face to anyone. Fortune-telling. Suddenly, a voice made Yihua stop his footsteps and look towards an old man who was at a corner at the side. The old man's face was yellow and wrinkled. Wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night, not placing a signboard beside him, and not even having a book. Truly incompetent. I have never believed in scammers like you. If I were to believe in scammers like you, then I would be an idiot. Handsome guy, isn't this fortune-telling? Yi Hua stopped his footsteps once again, then looked towards the fortune teller and said coldly, "Are you able to tell my fortune?" Of course. Yi Hua didn't like arrogant people, thus he decided to properly teach this scammer a lesson. "Tell me then. Tell me about my troubles." Yi Hua sat on a small stool opposite of the fortune teller. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of the fortune teller's mouth. "Handsome guy, you are afraid in your heart." Hearing that, Yi Hua's face sunk. "Who are you? Seems like my fortune telling is correct." The fortune teller muttered. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and waved it in front of the fortune teller's eyes. "Handsome guy, my eyes are blind but my heart is not blind." Yi Hua didn't say anything and continued asking, "Do you think that I will die?" "All living beings in the world will die one day, no matter who it is. They will not be able to escape from the cycle of reincarnation." "Didn't you die once already?" Yi Hua's expression stiffened, then killing intent emerged from his body. He stretched out his hand and tried to grab the fortune teller. However, what he grabbed was the air. "Yi Hua, we will meet again. You often give people choices. When the time comes, I will also give you a choice." After finished speaking, the fortune teller disappeared. Yi Hua shook his head. "I am actually sitting at the entrance of a shop. Just now, I was too careless. This damned fortune teller, he actually entered when I was feeling guilty and uneasy. And he actually dares to boast shamelessly and let me choose. Only a child would make a choice." Yi Hua took a deep breath, took a look at the bar at the side, then walked into the bar. "Perhaps only a sound that is a bit more stimulating would be able to make me sober up. Tonight's bill will be paid by young Master Yi." Following the DJ's shout, the crowd applauded. Yi Hua looked at the crowd silently, then shouted out, "Wife, come over and pay the bill." "Qingya, I am acting cool outside and in the end I still have to let my wife pay the bill." Chapter 1278. Knowing that Yi Hua wasn't in a good mood, the wives were magnanimous and personally accompanied Yi Hua to play with him. Yi Hua felt that it was quite effective for me to pretend to be depressed. Needless to say, what a sensible wife, not bad, not bad. I, the Supreme Overlord, am very gratified right now. In the next few days, Yi Hua went to visit Lu Sanjia. I feel that Lu Sanjia's place is pretty good, just that there are a lot of people in Lu Sanjia's place. Luckily I booked the best ticket. I can sit at the top and watch the show. Not bad, not bad. Of course there was also the bamboo raft. Although all of the bamboo rafts are automatic right now and are no longer manually operated like in the past, but the mountain that is at the side looks pretty good. Feeling the breeze and leaning on my fragrant wife, this is the life of an immortal. This kind of life passed quickly. Lu Jing had originally planned to stay here for a long time, but Gong Yu was pregnant and he wanted to go back to take care of her. Yi Hua could also tell that his mother wasn't in the mood to travel. After playing for 4 days, everyone returned to Wuxia Empire. As soon as Lu Jing returned to the palace, she went to see Gong Yu and so did Qingya. The treatment of pregnant women was indeed different. Gong Yu didn't expect that after she was pregnant, even her mother would be so attentive. She felt grateful for her mother. Yi Hua, on the other hand, was planning to move on to the next step of his plan, which was to complete the unfinished legendary weapon plan. Previously, because of what happened to his subordinates, he had stopped working on it. Now it had to be reopened. After all, the days were a bit boring. In actuality, Yi Hua also wanted to give himself a guarantee. That fortune teller's strength doesn't seem to be weak, to the extent that he was able to run away from me. Although at that time the fortune teller was only an afterimage, but at least the fortune teller was not discovered by me. Seems like this fortune teller is hiding in a corner, observing the main body. But so what? I still don't dare to show my face. This lousy fellow only knows how to hide in a corner and draw circles to curse me. What other abilities does he have? If he really had the ability, he would have already come out to fight me to the death. And you still dare to say that you want me to choose? Choose your sister. I, the Supreme Overlord, will only let others choose. I will never make my own choice. In order to obtain the detailed construction data, Yi Hua even made a trip to the God's realm to look for the current emperor of the demonic city. Jing Tian didn't expect that this man would appear again, and he was still afraid of Yi Hua. However, after hearing the reason why Yi Hua came, he still let out a breath of relief. However, Jing Tian did not dare to hide the details of the legendary weapon's creation and told him all the details. He even said that he would gift his parting fire to Yi Hua. However, Yi Hua rejected it fiercely. Are you looking down on me? Do you think that I, the Supreme Overlord, am unable to forge a legendary weapon? You are truly thinking too much. I want to create an existence that is even more powerful than a legendary weapon. Yi Hua had stayed in Demonic City for at least a month, and he had absorbed a lot of experience in forging legendary weapons. He just had to go back and operate it. However, the problem was that the materials had not been found yet. All of his subordinates had been sent out to search for the materials. The progress was still very slow and it would take at least 10 years to complete. Yi Hua stood in front of the palace and looked at the sky above Wuxia Empire with a slightly worried look on his face. Being invincible is truly lonely. He missed the days of the little skeleton and how dangerous those days were. What are you thinking about? Chen Yuqing hugged onto Yi Hua's back and lightly leaned onto Yi Hua's tiger back. Yi Hua looked at the night sky and said faintly, "Sometimes I feel that it's really boring." "Why do you suddenly have such a thought?" "Feel it," Chen Yuqing said tenderly. "Yi Hua, back then Qingya brought me to your bar and she even said that, from now on we will be staying in the bar." "That's right, the bar is indeed a quiet place and there are a lot of memories in there. Compared to the past, the memories in the bar are even more profound." Chen Yuqing lightly rubbed onto Yi Hua's back. "Then from now on we will be staying there and I will peel crayfish for you." "Did Qingya tell you that?" Yi Hua laughed lightly. Peeling crayfish had now become a joke that they would only see every day. And Qingya and Baiji also talked about a lot of things. "I feel that it would be great if I was also there during those few years. I have missed out on too much," Chen Yuqing said gloomily while pouting her small mouth. Yi Hua turned around and lightly hugged onto Chen Yuqing. "In the future, you will not miss out on those things anymore. You are the one who said it. If you go back on your words, I will teach you a lesson." Yi Hua pinched onto Chen Yuqing's cheeks. "Let's go, the party has just begun." Today was Chinese New Year's Eve, and Yi Hua gathered all of his subordinates. Of course, other than those who were out for training, none of them were present. This was already a tradition. On Chinese New Year's Eve, everyone would have a reunion dinner together and then have fun, celebrate and be happy. "Your Honor, you went to the toilet for so long, could it be that you went to play with your wife?" Lai Gu seemed to have already drunk a lot, and his mouth was starting to talk nonsense. As Yi Hua's mount, only Lai Gu would dare to tease Yi Hua like this. Under this kind of atmosphere, Yi Hua didn't really mind. He hugged onto Chen Yuqing who was beside him and said with a smile, "That's right, I am very happy." After finished speaking, Yi Hua even kissed onto Chen Yuqing who was blushing. It was very clear that Chen Yuqing still wasn't used to this kind of environment, but Qingya and the others were already used to it. Blood Demon, who was acting as the cameraman, was currently recording everyone's happiness. "Your Honor, how about singing a song for us?" Lai Gu had a lot of ideas and he had never heard His Honor sing in the past. At this moment, Pig Liver Denglong also suggested, "How about letting His Honor sing a song with your wife?" "Alright, this suggestion is not bad." All of Lai Gu's subordinates began cheering. Yi Hua gave Lai Gu a doom eyes. "Brat, just you wait." Yi Hua wasn't someone who would spoil the mood. "Isn't it just singing? If I, the Supreme Overlord, were to sing, I would definitely shock everyone." As a celebrity, it was not difficult for Qing Yutong to sing. Qing Yutong's singing was one of the best. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji aren't bad either. After all, beauties with beautiful voices wouldn't be bad at singing. At this time, Qing Yutong asked in a low voice, "Brother-in-law, what song do you know how to sing?" "Then let's play a song Luggers love," Yi Hua said faintly. After Qingya and the others heard what Yi Hua said, they were all speechless. However, since Yi Hua likes it, then let him do it. When the subordinates heard that His Honor was actually going to sing the song, The Love of the Hauled Man, all of them became very excited. It's a pity that there are still some people who are not here. If not, it would be perfect. "Your Honor is handsome. Your Honor is mighty. Your Honor, I'm your little fangirl." These words were said by Kai Yun, and he was even shaking the glow stick in his hand. Yi Hua's feeling came along with the lyrics of the first sentence. His voice broke. The scene was a bit awkward. All of Lai Gu's subordinates were stupefied for a moment, then began praising His Honor for singing well, and all kinds of flattery, causing the atmosphere to become even more awkward. Chapter 1279. However, the main point wasn't whether His Honor sang well or not, rather being able to listen to His Honor's voice while standing on top of the stage, that was already an unparalleled honor. Who cares if His Honor sang well or not? Although Yi Hua was very out of tune, he still managed to finish singing the song. His spirit of singing received the applause of his subordinates. Everyone had a thought in their minds. In the future, I better not let His Honor sing anymore. This is too scary. I might as well just dance awkwardly with His Honor. However, Yihua didn't seem to be satisfied and said faintly, I, the Supreme Overlord, sing another song, save everyone. His Honor, if you were to sing this song, then your subordinates would need to be saved. This is definitely not a joke. Yihua didn't know what his subordinates were thinking and immediately started singing. A few minutes later, seeing that His Honor walked down from the stage, everyone let out a sigh of relief and clapped until their hands turned red. Does it sound good? Yihua asked Qingya. The corner of Qingya's mouth twitched. Good, good. This is truly great. How about letting Yutong teach you? Yihua's face sunk. Qingya, are you saying that I, the Supreme Overlord, need someone to teach me if I don't sing well? How is that possible? Brother-in-law's singing skills are super great. Qing Yutong immediately smiled. Qingya shook her head. You all can just spoil him. Afterward, each of the subordinates went to sing a song. For example, Wei Chong, he actually started singing a song about love. Not bad. Yihua felt that he was a bit lacking compared to me. Zishan was also singing a song of longing. She was definitely thinking about Yihong. I have already been away for half a year. This kind of experience isn't something that can be accomplished in 1 or 2 years, it should be at least 10 years. However, when Death Mage went up to sing, the entire place immediately quietened down. Seriously, if you want to laugh you have to be unable to hold it in. However, looking at Death Mage being so affectionate, if you were to laugh, it would be a bit impolite. However, Yi Zizi was the first one to laugh. Following Yi Zizi's laughter, the others finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Is it possible for a skeleton to not laugh when he sings with GGG, unless his face is stiff? At 12 o'clock, everyone arrived outside of the palace. When midnight arrived, beautiful fireworks blossomed in the sky of the entire voidless empire. In the past, there was no tradition of celebrating Chinese New Year, but from this year onwards, there was a tradition of celebrating Chinese New Year. Looking at the fireworks in the sky, a trace of a smile could be seen on the corner of Yihua's mouth. My New Year's wish is that I hope that the entire guild can be happy, and enjoy the joys of life, and let all of the enemies go to hell. 1 year after another. Time passed by in a hurry, but to people who learn martial arts, 12 years passed by very quickly. During these 12 years, everything was calm and peaceful. No one stirred up any trouble. Yihua had almost forgotten about the guardians. There was still that fortune teller who was researching on how to forge legendary weapons every single day. As a man, it was important to have his own interests and hobbies. However, the people who went out to train have yet to return. However, Yihua found out from Zhu Tian's mouth that those people were very strong right now, and that they would be returning soon. However, within the entire team, a young man also appeared. That was Gong Yu's child. From this name, it could be seen that Gong Yu seemed to have let go of a lot of things. Maybe Gong Yu was also apologizing for the things that happened in the past. At that time she had framed Yi too much. Yi was an obedient boy. Although he was only 12 years old, his achievements were extraordinary. At such a young age, he had already surpassed his mother's strength, and his looks were also inherited from his father and mother. In the future he would definitely be a very handsome person. Ever since Yi was born he had never seen his father. He had only seen his big uncle, big aunt, grandma, and big uncle's subordinates. However, the person that Yi wanted to see the most was his father, just that right now, his father had yet to return home. But hearing that his father was going to return home soon, Yi was very happy. I heard that I still have cousin brother and cousin sister, but I have never seen them before. My mother said that, when they were very young they were sent away by big uncle. Compared to my cousin brother and cousin sister, I am really lucky to be able to grow up by my mother's side. In actuality, Yihua was planning to send Yi away. Gong Yu had no choice and was unable to stop him, but Lu Jing was firmly against it. How can all the children be sent away? Yihua was unable to change his mother's mind and could only compromise. However, after so many years, other than Gong Yu who gave birth to a child, the others did not have any reaction at all. For example, Zhu Tian and Brett, no matter what, they were unable to get a child. It was not only the two of them. Even Yihua and Chen Yuqing were unable to get pregnant. This caused Yihua to be very shocked. It must be that fortune teller who cursed me. Back then, I gave birth to one child at a time, and now I actually caused my wife to be unable to get pregnant. As a man, this is a shameful action. Even if Qing Su concocted medicine, he would not be able to solve the problem of population growth. Chen Yuqing was naturally very depressed. Why can't I get pregnant? At first, I thought that it was because of me and I was very worried, afraid that Yihua would not like me. After all, a woman not being able to give birth to a man's child, this is very hard to accept. However, later on she found out that Qing Yutong was also unable to get pregnant. Finally she felt relieved. It is not my problem, it is Yi Hua's problem. However, she did not dare to say such words. In the past, Qing Yutong did not want to have a child, and now that she wanted to have a child, she was unable to get pregnant. This caused Qing Yutong to be depressed every day. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's consolation did not work. Right now, Yi Hua felt that he had to solve this pregnancy problem. Why is it that the entire party is unable to get pregnant? This shouldn't be a curse, it should be a problem with feng shui. Should I change a place to give birth? For example, go to a bar? After all, Ali and the others were all born in a bar. Yi Hua tried it, but in the end it was still useless. Seems like I, the Supreme Overlord, have to go and take a look at the andrology department. After 12 years of development, Wushu Empire was no longer that small empire in the past, and it had already expanded by a few times. If one were to walk through the entire Wushu Empire, it would take at least a month. From this, it could be seen just how big Wushu Empire was. Yi Hua also brought his own ideology into the empire, the coexistence of humans and other races. Although there were conflicts in the beginning, no one dared to go against Yi Hua. After all, no one wanted to go to the execution ground. With such a forceful method, the people from other races moved into the empire. It could be discovered that the humans were actually afraid of the other races, and the other races were also afraid of the humans, afraid that the other party would harm them. This kind of situation continued for a year, and after that, the situation became a lot better, and the humans were no longer that afraid of the other party. However, the people from other races didn't live separately, and Yi Hua considered that it was not realistic. Thus, he divided a piece of land for the people from other races to live in. All in all, the current situation was a good one. What was worth celebrating was that 1 year ago, a human male got married to a woman from another race. Chapter 1280. This caused a sensation in the entire Wushu Empire, and even Yi Hua was shocked. He personally attended the wedding and advocated for this method. He wanted to encourage, support, and even provide subsidies. The cost of the children's growth would all be borne by Wushu Empire. When this news came out, it indeed encouraged a lot of humans. However, there were some females of different races that were really hard to get along with. For example, the ox-head woman, her entire body was covered with brown fur, and no matter how beautiful she was, she still had horns on her head. This was an extremely challenging thing. Even with all kinds of benefits, there were very few who were able to get along with one another, and there was only one pair right now. To this man, other people were very envious of him. After all, he was marrying a fox. Although the fox's ears were furry, that only added to the cute atmosphere. Furthermore, no matter how bad the fox race was, the females were all beauties. Of course, the prerequisite was that you had to endure the fox odor. However, with Wushu Empire's strength, solving this problem was a piece of cake. Yi Hua even directly gave the order to help the fox race get rid of the fox odor for free. This was another benefit. Right now, there were still people who were dating, but they had not reached the stage of marriage. After all, this required time to get used to each other. Human ladies liked handsome men too, and the fox race was full of handsome men too. Human men liked beautiful women too, and the fox race was the best choice. Actually, in the human world, the fox race was more like slaves, and they could be bought with money. Those who were rich all liked this type of people. The fox race naturally knew this point as well. In the process of interacting with humans, they were also very careful. If not for the emperor's decree, they wouldn't even dare to interact with humans. What Yi Hua gave was the female protection law. As long as the evidence was conclusive, the person who molested a woman would be directly beheaded. Knowing how ruthless the emperor was, no one dared to touch a woman, not even dared to use their hands. If they were to touch a woman, they would immediately die. This made the unmarried women of Wushu Empire clap their hands. To them, Wushu Empire was like a paradise. In this place, they did not need to fear the nobles, and they also did not need to fear their enemies. This kind of feeling was super good. Yi Hua also advocated it. However, the evil Lai Gu was thinking, is it really good for humans and beasts to be together? Dong dong dong. Within Wushu Empire's palace, the sound of smithing rang out in the emperor's bedroom. This sound had already rang out for 12 years, and the people in the palace were already used to it. The emperor had a hobby, and that was smithing. The children are finally coming back. Qingya said excitedly. After 12 years, Qingya had changed a little. This change wasn't because she had become old, rather she had become more mature. Her temperament and aura had also become very powerful. Right now, ordinary people wouldn't even dare to look straight into Qingya's eyes. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the opposite side, revealed a smile on her face as well. That's right, it has been 12 years. Looking at the time, Ali should be 20 years old now, right? She should be a big girl now. The Empress was getting more and more beautiful. As expected, time could make a woman even more charming. For the past 12 years, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji really didn't even take a single look at the children. Of course, this was all because Yihua didn't allow them to do so, and the reason that Yihua gave them was very weird. Are you curious about what the children will be like after 12 years? Anyway, a few years have passed, so just bear with it. Every single time, Yihua would always use this sort of excuse, angering Qingya, Donghuang Baiji, and Yihua to sleep on separate beds. To be honest, even Yihua was curious about what the children had become. If it was possible, Yihua would be able to see the children at any time. However, Yihua didn't do that. In fact, he didn't even go and inquire about the children's whereabouts. Lu Jing had already told Yihua many times, "How can there be a father like you, not seeing your children for more than 10 years? Towards the issue of children, Yihua was very persistent. I wonder what Yener has become." Qing Yutong supported her chin with both of her hands. Although a smile could be seen on the corner of her mouth, a hint of hesitation could be seen in the depth of her gaze. Qing Yutong calculated her age. "I am already 30+ years old. I also want to have a child. Back then, I wanted to play around more, but now that I want to have a child, I am unable to give birth to a child." After 12 years, Qing Yutong had lost her immaturity, and she had become much more mature. She was no longer like how she was in the past. Back then, she was just like a crazy girl. Chen Yu Qingmin, who was at the side, let out a light sigh as she drank her tea. The question in her mind was the same as Qing Yutong. "I am so envious of Qingya and Baiji for having a son and a daughter with Yihua." Donghuang Baiji laughed. "I am rather curious, did God Ye's personality change a little?" "That's right, there is also Lu Er's personality." Qingya was a bit worried. Yi Lu's personality is pretty much the same as God Ye's. The two ice lumps definitely inherited Yihua's personality. Yi Yan is much better, and of course there is also Ali. As long as I think that I will be able to see my children very soon, my heart will become extremely excited. They're already taller than me right now. Qingya stood up and gestured with a motherly radiance on the corner of her mouth. Qing Yutong and Chen Yu Qingmin were about to die of depression. These two freaks who are showing off their children, these few days they have been talking about their children this and that. What are the two of us, who are unable to get pregnant, going to do? Donghuang Baiji said lightly. "Look at this fellow, he doesn't seem to mind at all. He only knows how to forge iron every day. He might as well just sleep together with iron. He doesn't want to sleep together with us." Men, especially Yihua, don't seem to know how to express their feelings. In actuality, the longing in his heart was not any less than Qingya and Baiji. After all, they were all his children. Right now, Yihua was currently hammering a piece of black-colored iron sheet. Judging from the degree of hardness, this piece of iron sheet was not an ordinary iron sheet. After all, for Yihua to be able to be hammered by the black-colored iron sheet and not break it, it was sufficient to prove that the black-colored iron sheet wasn't broken. Yihua appeared to be very focused and also appeared to be very careful. This piece of metal is pure gold. In actuality, the degree of hardness of the pure gold was not that exaggerated. On the contrary, the pure gold was very fragile. If one did not control the pure gold properly, the pure gold would break. However, if one did not have enough strength, the pure gold would not be able to form the pure gold. This was the difficult part. Controlling one's own strength. To Yihua, this was not an easy thing to do. Thus, tiny beads of sweat could be seen appearing on Yihua's forehead. This piece of pure gold had already been forged for 5 years, and right now, the appearance of the pure gold had already reached the level that Yihua desired. It was a saber, but it was not an ordinary saber. The body of the saber was slender and much longer than the average saber, reaching 1 meter long. If the handle was added, it would be at least 1.2 meters long. In the future, when the heavenly flame was added, the color would change. This was also the most difficult step. This was because there was only one chance. If he failed, he might not be able to find the materials in a short period of time. Suddenly Yihua stopped. "Your Honor." Zhu Tian knelt at the side and shouted out respectfully. Yihua said gravely, "Zhu Tian, when I am forging, I need to concentrate." Subordinate was rash. Zhu Tian said apologetically. Chapter 1281. Yihua put down the hammer in his hand. However, when the hammer landed on the ground shook a bit. "The trainees are coming back?" Yihua asked faintly. In actuality, everyone knew about the situation of the people who went out to train. Right now, Yihua's improvement was very big, and he did not go out for nothing for the past 10+ years. It's just that Xiao Tian had lost an arm, and of course he had to pay the price in order to save someone. Yihua had a whole new level of respect for this little brother of his. The current Yi Juetian is calm and reserved, completely different from the previous Yi Juetian. This is a real man. There was responsibility, there was a sense of responsibility. Yi Juetian was the leader of that group of people who were going to train. Yihua was very gratified. My little brother has finally grown up. As for my broken arm, I can still think of a way to deal with it. No, it's just that little honor and the others are preparing to have a competition. Is your honor interested in going over to take a look? Spar? Yihua asked curiously. Zhu Tian nodded his head. That's right. From the reports, it seems that it will be a contest between the Meridian Breaking Sect and the Deity Institution. Little Senior is the representative of both sides, and also the trump card of both sides. I believe that Little Senior and the others will be able to encounter each other. After hearing that, Yihua became silent. The competition between the children seems to be a bit interesting. It is worth going to take a look at it. After so many years, I also want to see what they have learned. Originally, Yihua was still planning to hold a grand ceremony to welcome the children, but right now, the competition between the children seemed to be very important as well. From the looks of it, I have to change my plans. Alright, I understand. Yihua said faintly. Zhu Tian said lightly, Your Honor, subordinates also wish to go and take a look at Little His Honor. Yihua laughed. These subordinates who like to watch a good show. Approved. Zhu Tian was delighted. Thank you, Your Honor. You may leave. Yes. After Zhu Tian left, Yihua walked to the side and fetched a basin of water. After wiping the filth on his face and washing his hands, Yihua walked out of the bathroom. Seeing that the 4 women were sitting in the pavilion and chatting, Yihua walked towards his wives. However, Qingya and the others snorted, then turned their heads away, indicating that they were angry and didn't want to pay attention to us. Looking at the reactions of his wives, Yihua wanted to laugh as well. To think that I am still a child, I am already an old woman. Pour me a cup of water. Yihua said faintly. However, the 4 women did not have any reaction, each of them had their own anger. Just like Qing Yutong and Chen Yuqing, they were angry that Yihua could not give them a child. In the past few months, Yihua had already gotten used to the reactions of these women. In the beginning, Yihua would still be angry, but now, all of them no longer have any reactions. It's precisely because he was spoiled by me that he's very arrogant right now. Now, only Daji was slightly better, but Daji's current mission was to take care of her mother. Do you want to go see your child? Yihua asked faintly. Sure enough, upon hearing what Yihua said, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji immediately became spirited. Turning their head around, they looked towards Yihua and asked excitedly, We can go and see the children now? Really? You're not lying to us? Trying to amuse us? Pour me a cup of tea. Yihua said faintly. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, one was holding a cup and the other was holding a teapot. Yihua sat at the side and drank a mouthful of tea, then said, Let's go and fetch the children back together and take a look at their achievements in the past few years. Achievement? Donghuang Baiji asked in confusion. Yihua nodded his head. That's right. Just now, according to Absolute Heaven's intelligence, the children represent 2 powers and they are going to fight. How can this be? They are brothers and sisters, how can they fight like this? Qingya immediately became unwilling. How can I let the children fight against each other? This is too outrageous. Yihua said faintly, It's nothing, let's go and take a look. If I am not satisfied, I can go and continue exiling them to another place. Yihua. Yihua. You two tidy up a bit, then we will set off. Yihua said faintly. Right now, I finally understand a principle. When a husband and wife are together for a long time, their love will turn into familial love, and they will no longer have the passion that they had in the past. Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, am getting old? Or could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, am getting old? How is that possible? That doesn't exist. After Yihua left, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were still a bit absent-minded. After so many years, to suddenly hear that they could go and see the children, they felt like they were dreaming. Yutong, just now, your brother-in-law said that we are going to fetch the children, is that true? Qing Yutong nodded her head, and a smile finally appeared on her face. Qing Yutong was happy for her big sister. 12 years isn't long, but it isn't short either. Big sister and Baiji have endured for so long. This is great, Baiji. That's right. Donghuang Baiji cried tears of joy. My Ali and Shen both of them are like flesh that fell from my body. When I was at home I felt that they were too noisy, but when I was not at home I missed them so much. Right now, Donghuang Baiji was thinking in her heart, Ali should be very beautiful, right? When I left home she was only 8 years old and now she's already 20 years old, and also Shen and the others, they're already 16 years old now, and they're also men now. I wonder if they have found a girlfriend or not. Mother is really worried about them. What Donghuang Baiji was thinking in her heart was also what Qingya was thinking in her heart. Yi Yan is still alright, boys won't be at a disadvantage, but I'm afraid that Yi Lu. If she were to meet a boy like Yi Hua who knows how to talk and is also fickle, that would be troublesome and she would definitely be at a disadvantage. In the future when Yi Lu is by my side I have to properly talk to her. Don't ever believe in a man's mouth. Your mother is someone who has been through it, I have experience. Very quickly Yi Hua came out of the house after changing into a set of clean clothes. It was still that black robe that he was wearing, which was simple yet dignified. As for the wives, they dressed up properly. After all, they were going to meet the children soon and it was time for them to dress up. Yi Hua, let's go. Qingya held onto Yi Hua's arm and said happily. If Yi Hua didn't remember wrongly, it had already been 4 months since Qingya last acted intimately towards him. As expected, it is still because of the children. Even Donghuang Baiji is the same. Looking at my sister-in-law and Chen Yuqing, I have already gone to the registration and have them checked, and there are no problems at all. In the end, it is still me who is blaming myself for not being able to give birth to the children. What else can I do? In the entire team I am not the only one who is unable to conceive. In the past, Chen Yuqing was so obedient, but right now she has also been led astray by Yutong and learned to get angry at me. Wait. Yi Hua said faintly. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's expression immediately changed. Yi Hua, are you trying to make us happy? Let me tell you, if you were to make fun of us today, we would have run away from home. If I remember correctly, I have already said this 328 times, but every single time I did not run away from home, and every single time I would return to my room and cry. Women cannot be spoiled. If I were to spoil them, they would have a problem. Waiting for someone. Right now, Yi Hua already had antibodies against them. No matter how unreasonable they are, I, the Supreme Overlord, will have this reaction. Waiting for someone? Donghuang Baiji asked puzzledly. However, right after Donghuang Baiji finished speaking, over 10 people instantly appeared behind Yi Hua. Chapter 1282. Even the guardian Ren Yao is here. Seems like she is interested in Yi Hua's children as well. When Qingya and the others saw that all of Yi Hua's subordinates had arrived, they all went into a daze. Donghuang Baiji felt that Yi Hua wanted to be ostentatious. After all, he is going to pick up his children. Subordinate pays respect to his honor and madams. All of the subordinates shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua lightly raised his hand. Get up. Remember one thing, we are only going there to be spectators. As for other things, there is no need for us to do anything else, understand? Subordinate understands. Thinking about it, this was the first time that all of Yi Hua's subordinates were going out after gathering the 7 deadly sins. However, they were not going to eliminate the enemies, they were going to see the children. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji did not say anything. Right now they only wanted to see the children, everything else could be put aside. Just now, when Li Jing heard that her grandson and granddaughter were coming back, she was extremely excited. I can finally see Yi Hua's children, I am so happy. In the south, today was an important day, and that day was the battle between 2 big powers. To put it nicely, it was to exchange feelings, but in reality, it was just to see which side students were more powerful. For Meridian Break Sect, they had 2 trump cards, and that was Donghuang Li and Godyi. For Shen Academy, they had 2 trump cards, and that was Yi Yan and Yi Lu. Actually, in the past few years, everyone knew that both sides had such trump cards, and they wanted to see just who was more powerful in the battle between the trump cards. However, today the battle finally happened. In the past it was just a small fight, but this time it was for real. The battle between the 2 top powers shook the entire south, and even the top experts from the north came to watch. After all, the participants from both sides were really exciting. Everyone said that these few youngsters would surpass the Dozun realm in the future, which made everyone excited. The battle this time was also organized by the chairman, and some people even said that the stingy chairman actually went all out this time, to actually make it so grand. In the south there was a valley called Maple Forest Valley. During this season, the entire valley looked as if it was bathed in gold, and it was not an exaggeration to say that there were 10 miles of maple trees. However, the venue this time was a little special. There were no buildings, not even an arena. This made many people feel that the chairman was as stingy as ever. But in fact, in order to settle this maple forest valley, the chairman had already put in a lot of effort. This valley wasn't without a master, it was the territory of a supreme martial artist. Moreover, this was planted by a supreme being. If they were to fight, one could well imagine the consequences. But the chairman still gave him a lot of delicious food. Actually, even if he didn't give them any benefits, this supreme being would still give them some. That was because this supreme being also wanted to see for himself whether or not those youngsters were as powerful as the rumors said. At this moment, in Maple Forest Valley, two figures seemed to be chatting about something. One was a woman and the other was a man. Both of them were wearing the white robes of the Broken Meridian sect. In that case, he must be someone from the Meridian Breaking sect. The young man was a head taller than the girl, but this did not mean that the girl was short. On the contrary, the girl was very tall. Her skin was as white as snow, and if she stood under the sun, she would definitely be able to reflect the light. Her nose bridge was elegant, and her cherry lips were like drops of water. Her beautiful appearance would cause men to daydream. Her pair of beautiful eyes exuded. It wasn't that she wasn't beautiful, but rather, it gave people a feeling that they were going to be cheated. However, the boy standing in front of her had a cold expression on his face. His tall and straight figure caused the girl to be dazzled. If one were to see that face again, they would immediately be intoxicated. So cold, so handsome, so character. However, in the depths of the boy's eyes, there was actually nervousness. That's right, these two were the grown-up Dong Huangli and God Yi. Even if Yi Hua and the Empress saw them, they wouldn't be able to recognize them at all. This change was simply too big, they were completely two different people compared to when they were young. Especially God Yi, his facial features were a combination of his parents, but he looked more like Dong Huang Baiji, while Dong Huangli looked more like Yi Hua. The two's appearance was off the charts. In the Broken Meridian sect, they were the class representatives of appearance. Especially God Yi, a lot of girls gave up on the God of Gods Academy just to get close to their Adonis, God Yi. This also caused the number of females in the Broken Meridian sect to double in recent years, and the ratio had already reached 3:7. Don't you think it's terrifying? The Broken Meridian sect was about to become a female academy. That gave faction master Changhan a headache. These girls were only interested in chasing after men. As long as God Yi was around, there would definitely be screams. Even if God Yi was in class, the surroundings would be filled with people. There were even some senior sisters who wanted to take advantage of the younger generation and use their status to oppress others. In an instant, thousands of girls objected to the oppression. God Yi did not belong to an individual but to all girls. However, that made God Yi depressed, especially when he was taking a bath. He had to take special precautions as girls would rush in if he was even slightly careless. God Yi had not forgotten that those dozen or so girls seemed to want to eat him up, and even took away all his clothes. If he could take away his body, that might be the case. In the end, God Yi had no choice but to tell the faction master about it. After Changhan found out, he ordered that anyone who peeked at God Yi taking a bath would be expelled from the sect. Sure enough, in order to be with their Adonis for a long time, the girls became reserved, but that was only because they did not act impulsively. If they acted impulsively, they would end up in a group fight. God Yi had two major fan groups. The fights had reached more than 30 times, and the most serious one had the children's clothes torn by the other party. It was a feast for the eyes of the boys in the sect. What they wanted to see the most was these girls fighting. Pulling hair, scratching face, and even tearing clothes. It was too exciting. However, the reason for the fights was very strange. For example, God Yi's clothes were raided. However, as long as there was a disagreement, they would fight. The strangest one was whether God Yi took a dump or not. If God Yi knew that there were people peeking at him even when he took a dump, he would want to die. However, when he thought that the mission was about to be completed, he would be able to go back and get rid of those girls. "Sis, do you think Mom and Dad will come?" God Yi said faintly, holding a yellow leaf in his hand, his face filled with longing. Dong Huangli chuckled, then reached out to pinch God Yi's face. God Yi subconsciously took a step back. Dong Huangli's face sank, and God Yi obediently took a step forward. Dong Huangli pinched God Yi's face. "Brother, don't change the topic. Have you gotten your girlfriend yet? If Dad saw that you didn't find a girlfriend, he would be so disappointed." The last time Qing Yutong and the others came over, God Yi mistakenly thought that his father had a new order to bring his girlfriend home. Now that the time was almost up, God Yi became anxious. Chapter 1283. Letting his father down was something God Yi did not want to see. Anything was fine, but he must not let his father down. Qing Yutong might not know, but this nephew of hers was completely swindling him. I think that Lu Xian'er is actually pretty good. It's a pity that no one else is interested in you. You've been courting her for half a year, but you can't even say 10 sentences to her. Brother, how straight do you have to be? I don't expect you to kiss her, but holding her hand is good enough. You haven't inherited Dad's flirting skills at all. Dong Huangli said a whole bunch of things. Dong Huangli is simply like a demon that harms her younger brother. Truth be told, Dong Huangli was just playing along with God Ye's plan. With God Ye's personality, it would definitely be impossible for him to chase after a girl, unless it was her father's order. Right now, God Yi already has a girl that he likes, so he should just chase after her. In fact, God Yi had already started pursuing Lu Xian'er half a year ago. It could not be helped since it was a task given by his father. However, even if it was a task, he had to pick someone who was presentable, so he chose Lu Xian'er. Lu Xian'er was also a great beauty that was on par with Dong Huangli, and her strength was also very good. The most important thing was that her senior sister was the same age as Dong Huangli, 20 years old this year. It was God Ye's first time seeing someone else. He immediately said, "Woman, be my wife." Such a tone was simply like that of a domineering CEO. Unfortunately, the other person directly said, "Sorry, I don't like little boys." With that, he turned around and left. That stunned God Yi on the spot. He was the son of a supreme paragon, and yet he was rejected today. If word of this were to reach his father's ears, what face would he have left? He would die of shame. However, this matter was immediately known by Dong Huangli, because Dong Huangli and Lu Xian'er were living together. After such a thing happened, Lu Xian'er naturally told her good friend Dong Huangli about it. Your brother must be crazy. Dong Huangli's face was filled with awkwardness. Who in the world would be flirting with a girl like you? You immediately said such words to me. If you are able to get a girl, then there would be a ghost in the world. Perhaps because he was rejected, God Ye's competitive spirit was aroused. He began to use moves that he thought were powerful. Block the door. Send flowers. If Yi Hua was here, he would definitely give a slap to his son's head. How can I have such a stupid child like you? If you directly spoil the child, wouldn't the child be yours? Look at your mother. She was conquered by me just like that. In this day and age, as long as you have a child, anything is possible. Marriage is a given. You're really wasting your brain cells, idiot. Sister, what do you think I should do? Xian'er will leave the moment she sees me. I can't even say a word. I'm going home soon and I won't be able to bring my girlfriend back. God Yi felt terrified just thinking about it. Dong Huangli said earnestly, "All right, listen to big sister, there might still be a chance for you to be saved. After all, Xian'er and I are in the same dormitory, and I feel that Xian'er is interested in you." Interested in me? Really? God Yi was in disbelief and felt that his sister was comforting him. He felt that he was considered aloof, but Lu Xian'er was even more aloof in front of him. However, she would smile in front of others while he was like a cockroach. Of course, how can you not believe big sister's words? Dong Huangli said seriously. To be honest, God Yi did not really believe that big sister was a disaster, right now, the kind that everyone was afraid of, the kind that everyone had to stay away from. Even the sect master had to speak nicely to her, if not, she would cause chaos in meridian-breaking sect. There were all sorts of reasons for her to do that. Generally speaking, she would increase her strength and then accidentally make a mistake such as blowing up a house or burning down the library. In short, she would cause all sorts of trouble. Everyone was afraid. She is truly a little demon. No, she is already a big demon now. A lot of people had witnessed Dong Huangli's destructive potential, and it simply made people want to escape. To be able to live together with someone as terrifying as Dong Huangli, that Lu Xian'er was definitely not a simple person. I believe, of course I believe. God Yi said against his conscience. No matter what big sister says, I won't do it. However, the current situation is different. Without waiting for Dong Huangli to speak, God Yi suddenly asked curiously, "Big sister, how is your search going?" "Me? Other than you, who else dares to get close to your big sister?" God Yi nodded his head subconsciously. There's nothing wrong with what God Yi said. Then, big sister, aren't you afraid that daddy will be disappointed? God Yi asked curiously. Dong Huangli patted on God Ye's shoulder. Little brother, I'm a woman. God Yi instantly understood. Girls have their own advantages and I can't. Daddy's expectations of me are very high. Big sister, just tell me, I will listen to you. Dong Huangli said seriously, stretch out your arm. God Yi stretched out his arm, expressing his curiosity. Muscles aren't that awesome. Dong Huangli looked at her brother's biceps. Too low, they aren't even inflated. God Yi didn't quite understand. Strength has nothing to do with muscles, right? Look at daddy, do you have any muscles? You probably don't know about this, but girls like guys with muscles. I heard that from Siener. Then why would mommy like daddy? Dong Huangli's face sunk. God Yi, I am teaching you not to talk about daddy and mommy, how would I know? Oh, big sister doesn't know. You scram, I'm not teaching you anymore. God Yi hurriedly pulled her back, then said with a fawning tone, Big sister, I was wrong. Act coquettishly for big sister. God Yi was speechless. God Yi took a deep breath, then shouted out with a tone that caused one's scalp to go numb, Big sister, sob sob sob. Dong Huangli laughed out loud. God Yi hurriedly stopped acting like that, even he himself felt disgusted. Stop laughing. God Yi said sternly. When the time comes, I will call someone over. Dong Huangli stabilized her emotions. Although you don't have a lot of muscles, you still have some curves. You need to show off your muscles in front of Siener. I believe that Siener will look at you in a different light. After saying that, even Dong Huangli herself didn't believe it. However, there was a reason why she said that. God Yi cared too much about his face, even more so than her father. How is it possible to win a girl's heart when chasing after a girl? That was why she had to train God Yi's shamelessness just like herself. You still need a chance. God Yi said seriously. Dong Huangli couldn't help but knock on her brother's head. You idiot, tomorrow is the martial arts competition and Siener will be watching as well. Just show off your muscles. Do you know that if you can't win her heart, you're dead? God Yi's gaze instantly became firm. The martial arts competition this time was mainly to pick up girls. For the sake of the mission, God Yi had even forgotten the promise he made with his sister Yi Lu. However, at that moment, under the shade of a tree in Maple Valley, Chapter 1284. Under the maple forest, with a smile on his face, a boy was currently kissing a girl, and that girl's face was filled with shyness, seemingly not knowing what to do. The boy's height had already reached 1.8 meters. He was wearing black clothes and there was a black bamboo flute on his waist. His hair was combed back and his facial features were extremely handsome. While kissing, the boy opened his eyes and looked at the shy girl in front of him. Needless to say, this was Yi Yen who had grown up. He had simply become a playboy. However, Yi Yen did not do anything else. He only kissed the girl, and even his hands were only holding onto the girl's shoulders. Yi Yen. Suddenly, a shout rang out, causing Yi Yen, who was currently enjoying, to go into a daze. He lightly let go of the girl, and a girl with a face filled with anger could be seen standing at the side. This girl's looks were not bad, just that right now, her face was filled with anger, and her pair of beautiful eyes looked as if they were going to spew out flames. However, Yi Yen appeared to be very calm. The folding fan on his right hand opened up, and on the folding fan, there were even big words written by himself. Scumbag. Yi Yen. What do you mean by this? The girl questioned angrily. He actually kissed another girl behind my back. Yi Yen shrugged his shoulders and waved his folding fan. Xiaosun, don't get agitated, just let big brother kiss you once. Scram. I don't want to see you anymore. You are a scumbag. The girl turned around and ran away, and her tears fell down from the sky. Yi Yen let out a light sigh and mumbled, such a big word, you only saw it now, seriously. Xiaoqing, let big brother kiss you again. I don't want, I thought, so you are a scumbag. The girl seemed to have seen through Yi Yan's true colors and immediately ran away. Yi Yan went into a daze for a moment, then laughed lightly. Sigh, girls nowadays are just too careless, they don't understand my inner qualities, and are only attracted by my outstanding appearance. Too shallow. How many is it now? Suddenly an ice-cold voice rang out. Yi Yan counted with his fingers. Counting, this is already the 312 big sisters that I have harmed. Lu, big brother is awesome, right? Yi Lu's figure walked out from the side. Right now Yi Lu was 1 year younger than Yi Yan. Although she wasn't as tall as Yi Yan, she was still one of the best. Yi Lu was still as cold as usual, and this coldness was even more severe than when she was young, hence she was called Ice Goddess. If one were to say that in the Meridian Breaking sect many young ladies were there for God Yi, then in the Divine Academy most of the young men were there for Yi Lu. Reality proved that being aloof was indeed attractive. Look at the current Yi Lu. A girl really changed 18 times between womanhood and womanhood. Her beauty was not inferior to Qingya at all. In fact, she was even better than Qingya. How could a girl like her not drive men crazy? For so many years, other than harming girls, Yi Yan didn't do anything great. However, this kind of scumbag Yi Yan's face. However, there was nothing Yi Lu could do about her brother. He called himself a scumbag, but even so, there were still many young ladies who risked their lives to die for him. Situations like what had just happened happen once or twice a month. If father sees you like this, he will definitely be angry, Yi Lu said indifferently. Yi Yan patted his little sister's shoulder. Lu, this isn't Big Brother's fault. Look at Big Brother's fan, but there are still girls going up. I can only blame Big Brother for being too good-looking, too outstanding. Yi Lu glared at her big brother. Prepare to be scolded by mom and dad, I am going to snitch. Lu, we are related, Big Brother didn't do anything bad. I am just telling these girls not to be deceived by a man's appearance. In the end, Big Brother is doing a good deed. Yi Yan waved his fan and smiled, appearing very elegant. This sentence was indeed true. Yi Yan's appearance was indeed very handsome. Twisting words and forcing logic. Yi Lu snorted. Yi Yan smiled. This was just a small problem. School life was so boring he had to kill time. After this competition we are going home. Thinking about it makes me a bit excited. Yi Yan's expression changed. If there was a child who changed the most, it would be Yi Yan. Although Yi Yan looked very frivolous just now, the fierceness in his eyes was even fiercer than Yi Hua's. It was just that Yi Yan hid it well. Yi Lu naturally knew about her big brother's change and was a bit worried. Actually, she was just joking. Yi Lu used this method to suppress the demon in her heart. When Yi Yan thought about going home, his father would put him in an important position and then he would be able to show off his skills. This was the life he wanted. A Yi Yan. That is a man who will step on corpses and stand at the peak. My achievements will definitely be higher than father's. I will become the most outstanding man in the entire Yi family. And this competition will be the first step for me, Yi Yan, to make my debut. Big sister, little brother God Yi, don't disappoint me. Because when I, Yi Yan, am fierce, I am really fierce. There was a loud smack. Yi Yan held the back of his head. Lu, it hurts. What are you fantasizing about again? It is time to find a new girlfriend. Yi Yan spread his hands and laughed. Yi Lu said helplessly, can't you have a good talk? Do you have to be a scumbag? That doesn't exist. Yi Yan kept his folding fan, looked at the golden leaves, then suddenly said faintly, Lu, you are going to fight against God Yi soon, do you have any chance of winning? When it came to serious matters, Yi Lu became serious, 50% chance. Lu, although we are a family this time, it is a test of 10+ years of achievements, Big Brother hopes that you can win. Right now, Yi Yan was no longer that little kid who followed behind Dong Huangli. He also knew about honor, and as a father's child he can only win, he cannot lose. I know. Yi Lu said coldly. After so many years, Yi Lu has been looking forward to fighting against God Yi. I must win. As expected of my Yi Yan's little sister, Big Brother has high hopes for you. Yi Yan patted onto his little sister's head. Luckily no one saw this action, if not it would have shocked everyone. Yi Lu did not resist and said softly, then what about you, Big Brother? Number 1. Yi Yan said with a slight smile, and a fierce look flashed past his eyes. Right at that moment, a figure slowly walked over and the brother and sister immediately looked over. That figure was a youngster who was also wearing black clothes. He appeared calm, but the stubbornness in his eyes was very obvious. That person was Lin Qing. When they were young, the brother and sister often interacted with each other. Back then, Lin Qing even challenged Yi Yan to a one-on-one fight, and was directly abused like a dog. However, Lin Qing did not give up and even trained even more diligently. There was only one goal, and that was to defeat those two people. To become number 1 in Shen Institution. Chapter 1285. Lin Qing was quite famous outside. Since Yi Yan and Yi Lu hadn't participated in the competition, people didn't know much about them. However, Lin Qing participated every year, his ranking also gradually rising, his reputation also growing, becoming a well-known figure in Deity Institution's younger generation. However, Lin Qing felt like this wasn't much. Since the two siblings weren't participating, it wouldn't matter even if he got first place. Seeing Lin Qing walk over, Yi Yan wanted to roll his eyes. Even Yi Lu wanted to turn around and leave. This isn't being impolite, it's just that. I'm really already numb to it. Because the difference in strength is right here, I really don't want to dampen the enthusiasm of others. After all, I'm a child that was born at the finish line. This world is just so unfair, there's nothing I can do about it. Reincarnation is also a skill. In fact, he could even guess what Lin Qing would say next. He would definitely say it. I will definitely win against you. Definitely. I want everyone to see the strength of my forest city. Lin Qing looked at the siblings in front of him and said in a deep voice, "This courtyard. It's not just the two of you. And my forest city." The siblings had to praise Lin Qing for being such a persistent man. But I can't say praising words. If I say it out, other people will think that I am looking down on them. For the two siblings, there were only two opponents this time. Only Dong Huangli and Gadyi. I don't really care about the others. I'm looking forward to your performance, Yi Lu said as he looked at Lin Qing. Lin Qing turned around beautifully. At this moment, a light breeze blew, causing Lin Qing's black robes to flutter. He had the demeanor of a hero. All right, everyone has left, Yi Lu said softly. Yi Yin shrugged his shoulders. I feel that this will show more boldness. When Lin Qing loses, he will feel more at ease. All right, let's go back. We should be able to see Big Sister and Big Brother tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. It would be great if Mom and Dad could come too. On the other hand, Yi Yin hoped that his parents would come over. At that time, they would be able to see his elegance and would definitely praise him. However, Yi Yin felt that his father was so busy that he probably wouldn't come. Even if he didn't come, he had to go all out. After all, the news here would also reach his father's ears. Yi Lu sighed. It was for the best. The entrance of Maple Forest was a city, specially built by the organizing committee. In fact, it was just like a village. Even the inn was made of wood and was very simple. Once again, it showed how stingy the committee was. Although it was a bit stingy, but the necessary facilities still existed, and the scale was still very big. After all, the number of people that came to watch the battle was huge. Therefore, the inns were all overcrowded. Those who didn't manage to book a room could only go to the open air. Facing such a situation right now, Yi Hua's originally good mood turned into a bad mood. Letting me stay in such a place is already giving me enough face, and to actually say that I don't have a reservation. Walking on the street, the group of people attracted a lot of attention. Just that, the group seemed to be a bit curious, that's all. Because Yi Hua and the others had changed their attire, and even their appearances had changed a little. Yi Hua wanted to secretly take a look at the children's achievements. He didn't want to be discovered by the children too quickly. Both Qingya and Donghuang Baiji agreed to Donghuang Baiji's suggestion. After all, they had not seen each other for more than 10 years, and it was time for them to see their children's achievements. As for the others, they had also changed a little. Although they had not seen each other for more than 10 years, the children could still recognize these subordinates. The group of people dressed up as ordinary merchants, and all of the subordinates were guards. Yi Hua was naturally the boss, and there was no problem with this kind of disguise. However, in this place, Yi Hua's position didn't seem to be very high. After all, this was a place where experts gathered, and ordinary people were unable to be accepted. Let's find a place and have a meal. Yi Hua said faintly as he walked towards a shop at the side. Saying that it was a shop was a bit of an exaggeration. In actuality, it was just a straw shed and the business was very good. Adding up the group, there were more than 20 people. They looked rather scary, especially Tsang Konghong. He was tall and strong, and had a fierce look on his face. Yi Hua walked into the straw shed and directly sat down. When the boss saw the group of people, he hurriedly walked over with a smile. Boss? This place has already been booked. I am truly sorry. Booked again. I'm here to see the children. Do you really have to make my good mood so irritable? Sit. Yi Hua said faintly. The group of fierce subordinates sat down in the surroundings. This was definitely a situation where they were going to cause trouble. The boss clearly felt that this group of people was here to cause trouble. However, the boss still smiled apologetically and said, Boss, this place has truly been booked, and, boss, if you want to cause trouble, this is the worst choice. What is there to eat? Yi Hua asked faintly. The smile on the boss's face gradually disappeared. These people look just like ordinary people, just that they are slightly rich. They really think that I am someone important. This place is managed by the South Organizing Committee, no matter how powerful you are. If you cause trouble today, you will be punished in the future. Threat? For so many years I didn't step out of the door, and the moment I stepped out, I was threatened. Let me have a look. Yi Hua said lightly as he took a look at the blood demon. The blood demon immediately understood. He stood up and walked towards the stove, and Luo Ho followed behind the blood demon. After all, the blood demon was just an ordinary person, and Luo Ho had to protect him. Furthermore, the blood demon's culinary skills were currently top-notch. Even if I wanted to eat it, I wouldn't be able to. Now that I have the chance, how can I let it go? What are you all doing? You all are too daring. The two waiters pointed at the blood demon and said while trembling with fear. The people who were eating at the side were a bit surprised. Are these people really not afraid, or are they just courting death? Luo Ho immediately knocked the waiters unconscious, and the blood demon took out a white coat from God knows where and put it on. Then, the blood demon started carefully choosing the ingredients. The subordinates looked at the blood demon and swallowed their saliva. Other than being able to taste the blood demon's culinary skills during Chinese New Year, they basically wouldn't be able to eat the blood demon's culinary skills. Today, whoever dares to disturb the blood demon's cooking is equivalent to becoming our enemy and courting death. The boss pointed at the crowd and shouted, "Good job all of you, just you all wait. I will go and report to the organizing committee right now and chase you all out." After finished speaking, the boss ran away. Yihua didn't stop the boss. I, the supreme overlord, planned to come here in a low-profile manner and bring the children home. It is you all who made me unhappy. Also, that whatever chairman meeting, everything needs to be booked. Why didn't you just give me a phone number to book? It is obvious that you all are looking down on me. This is making me feel very troubled. Yihua, go and fetch the children, don't cause too much trouble. Qingya said in a low voice. She also didn't want other factors to appear during the reunion. Chapter 1286. Yihua remained silent. Whether or not this matter would blow up would depend on the other party's attitude. Don't you know that the people sitting around me are all people who kill without batting an eye? They can raze this place to the ground in a matter of minutes. Moreover, these subordinates had not seen blood for a long time. Blood Demon's cooking speed was very fast. Even if it was the most ordinary ingredients, Blood Demon would still be able to cook at the fastest speed possible. After all, his honor was hungry. Under the premise of ensuring the speed, his honor also had to ensure the quality. These were the most important things. I can't be too careless. Very soon, a fragrant smell wafted out, and Yihua felt much more comfortable. However, just now, Yihua had also heard that the people at the table beside him were discussing about the children. Hearing those people praising the children, Yihua was rather happy. However, the good situation didn't last long, and he immediately started to ridicule them. This caused the corners of Yihua and the others' mouths to twitch slightly. Did you guys know? That Bloodline Break Sect's Dong Huangli is a destruction king. When the people from Bloodline Break Sect saw Dong Huangli, it was as if they had seen a ghost. What does this count as? Deity Institutions Yi Yen, that is but a top-level scum. I heard that he already harmed over 1,000 older sisters, even causing people to lose their lives. He really is a super scumbag. That Yi Lu is still okay. I heard that Pulse Break Sect's God Yi is pursuing a girl. I wonder if it's true. Hearing those words, Dong Huang Baiji immediately went into a daze. My son is actually chasing after a girl? Is God Yi hitting on a girl? How was this possible? Even Yihua was quite shocked after hearing that. With God Yi's personality, would he take the initiative? That girl must be very outstanding. However, Qingya's expression was a bit bad because just a moment ago she heard that her son was actually harming a big sister. And it had even reached a terrifying 4 digits. He even killed someone. This little bastard is actually even more powerful than his father. Your father has harmed 4 people and you have harmed 4 people. You are much more powerful than your father. However, right when Yihua was thinking this Yen is actually so fierce. Not bad, not bad. As my children, the more the better. When the time comes, I will be able to sow the seeds and let my bloodline envelop the entire world. I'm so mad. It's all your fault. Yenner has been led astray. Qingya said angrily, pushing all of the blame onto Yihua. Yihua said disapprovingly, he's a man after all. What's wrong with finding a few women? Is there a problem? Qingya, is this how you teach your child? Qingya said while panting with rage. The child is completely being led astray by you. Qing Yutong and Chen Yuqing were thinking, if I have a child, I definitely can't let Yihua teach the child is too terrifying. Is there anything wrong with what I have taught you? Yihua said faintly, not feeling that there was anything wrong with what he had taught. Qingya didn't want to argue with Yihua about this. Moreover, they were outside right now, and there were still her subordinates around. Yihua had an unhappy look on his face. The child is already so big and he already has his own thoughts and thoughts. What are you blindly worrying about him for? You are being soft-hearted. Dong Huang Baiji mumbled. This child God Yi actually took the initiative to chase after a girl. I really want to see just how outstanding that girl is. Since Shinra has taken a liking to that girl, she can't be that bad. Yihua said faintly. After going through Yi's matter, Yihua had already tossed aside the idea that the two of them were well matched in terms of social status. As long as the two of them liked each other, it would be fine. Some things can only be understood after experiencing it. Now that I think about it, I still feel a bit remorseful. I really can't wait anymore. Donghuang Baiji seemed to be very excited. I actually have a daughter-in-law, my god. When the time comes, even my grandson is born and I am going to be a grandmother, haha. While Donghuang Baiji was happy, Qingya was depressed. My son is actually a scumbag. He is the same as his father, a scumbag. Suddenly, more than 10 people came to the outside of the straw shed, and the boss was among them. The person leading the group was a man. Qing Yutong looked at the man and immediately recognized him. Isn't this man? 12 years ago. I summoned Daji and in the end Daji acknowledged me as her brother-in-law. It's precisely this man, Feng Yun. This man was precisely Feng Yun who had swallowed his anger and humiliation for many years. After so many years had passed, there was a very deep pit in Feng Yun's heart, and that pit was that the first orange card that he had nurtured actually acknowledged someone else as his master. Damn it. But now, the little wimp that he had summoned back then had already become an orange card, and furthermore, he was standing right beside me, looking at the man in front of me, and the woman beside him. Why do I feel that this scene is so familiar? Feng Yun did not recognize Yihua and the others. After all, Yihua's appearance had changed, but his temperament did not change. This was what made Feng Yun think back to that time. This scene is so familiar. Back then we also sat like this. However, today is still the same, but today, I'm already different from the past. Look at the people beside me. 1 orange card, 3 purple cards, and 8 top-notch blue cards. With this kind of lineup, I'm already able to sweep away everyone. Yihua looked at Feng Yun who was walking in, and he completely had no impression of Feng Yun at all. Only Qing Yutong recognized Feng Yun. Back then she also found out from the system that this man had a system. However, looking at Qing Yutong now, this man seems to have turned over a new leaf, and the people beside him are actually all card sets. Feng Yun no longer had to worry about the situation of the cards betraying him, because these cards were all raised by him since young, and the feelings he had for them were very strong. Lord Feng. It's this man. He didn't follow the rules and insisted on sitting here. Lord Feng, I hope that you can uphold justice for this lowly one. Feng Yun looked at Yihua and the others, then said gravely, Who are you all? To actually not follow the rules. Do you all know what the consequences are? Yihua didn't want to pay attention to them and quietly waited for the food that the blood demon made. This kind of small matter, it is fine if I just let my subordinates settle it. If not, why would the Supreme Overlord want subordinates? If the boss does everything, then what is the point of having subordinates? Seeing that these people were actually ignoring him, Feng Yun's expression immediately changed. Speak. If not, die. Feng Yun shouted out angrily. It has been a long time since someone dared to treat me like this. Right now, Qing Yutong was currently asking her system. Hey, can these cards be modified a bit? Qing Yutong asked curiously. Master, your request is simply too simple. Qing Yutong didn't expect that her system would be so awesome. After all, so many years had passed, and this system had already become the commanding point of the system world. That kind of thing is simply too easy. That's fine, these people should be able to modify the cards, right? Satisfy Master's wish. Haha, then this is a bit interesting. I didn't expect that I would still be able to meet him. I really feel sad for him. This kind of person's probability is really low. Chapter 1287. Feng Yun was still unaware of the situation, and even the system was still silent, completely unaware of the situation. Speak. You audacious people actually dared to cause trouble here. You're simply too full of yourself. Damn it. At this time, Feng Yun shifted the anger of the past to the present, and the anger in his heart burned to the peak. The subordinates that were sitting at the side all stood up and looked at Feng Yun. Although they did not emit any pressure, Feng Yun immediately felt that his heart was about to split open, even if the air was filled with the smell of blood. Feng Yun shook his head. What was wrong with him? He was actually frightened by the other party's aura. They were clearly just ordinary people, yet they were able to give off such a terrifying aura. Seemingly feeling that he had lost face, Feng Yun's complexion didn't look too good. He made up his mind to kill these people. Attack! Feng Yun shouted coldly. It was as if Feng Yun could already see the people in front of him wailing in pain, blood flowing all over the ground, and then begging for mercy, asking him to forgive their arrogance. At this moment, Blood Demon came over with the first dish and said respectfully, "Boss, the dish is ready." Yi Hua looked at the stir-fried meat in front of him, and his appetite came. He picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. The texture was still as good as before. When Feng Yun saw that these people actually still have the mood to discuss stir-fried meat, Feng Yun was simply about to explode from anger. "What are you waiting for? Do it." Feng Yun had already lost his usual demeanor as he shouted at his subordinate. "There's no way to evoke the hatred in my heart." However, the person behind Feng Yun stood in the same place, his expression a little slack as if he had lost his mind. Feng Yun turned around to look at his subordinates, his angry eyes mixed with confusion. What had happened to them? "Do it. Have you all lost your minds?" Feng Yun shouted in a deep voice. The people who were eating at the side were also puzzled. "This is the famous Lord Feng of the organizing committee, and I heard that all of his subordinates are powerful experts. Why is it now?" Qing Yutong didn't expect that the current system would actually be so powerful, to actually be able to retrieve the data of the characters that other people summoned out. That was way too awesome. "What are you doing?" Feng Yun angrily shouted. He felt his face burning. These obedient subordinates had actually rebelled one by one. A purple card at the side raised its hand and slapped Feng Yun, causing him to be dumbfounded. The slap was very loud, but it was not very powerful. This sudden situation caused everyone in the surroundings to be stupefied. What's going on? Lord Feng's subordinate actually slapped Lord Feng. This slap sounds very resounding. An orange card beside him suddenly gave him a slap. The orange card's strength was above Feng Yun's. This slap caused Feng Yun's teeth to fall out. Feng Yun covered his face and looked at his orange card. This was the orange card that had been with him for 12 years. Today it actually rebelled. How could this be? What was wrong with them? Did they take the wrong medicine? Just as Feng Yun was feeling puzzled, the blue card actually surged forward and pushed the dumbfounded Feng Yun to the ground. Then it abused him to its heart's content. The orange card and purple card would occasionally give him a few kicks from the side. It seemed to be very exciting. Feng Yun protected his face and shouted out loudly in his heart, "Crashing, currently rebooting, crashing, currently rebooting, crashing, currently rebooting." Hearing this cold and despairing voice, Feng Yun's heart turned cold. Why did it become like this? At this time, Feng Yun looked at Yi Hua from the corner of his eyes and suddenly discovered that the corner of Yi Hua's mouth was slightly curved. This curve made Feng Yun recall that back then, that man's mouth also had this kind of curve. Damn it! Feng Yun shouted out angrily and sent the blue card beside him flying. His entire body turned into a sharp sword and directly attacked towards Yi Hua, who was currently eating. A fierce aura engulfed the entire Maple Forest Valley. This is actually the aura of a Do Di, so powerful. Facing such a powerful Do Di, Yi Hua continued to eat his stir-fried meat. A figure suddenly blocked in front of Yi Hua. At the same time, the figure erupted with the strength of a Do Zun. Just that aura alone was enough to send Feng Yun flying. After all, there was a difference of one level. Yi Hua looked towards Qing Yutong. Qing Yutong laughed tenderly. "Brother-in-law is still so smart, to be able to see through me in an instant. Yutong, it's almost done." Qingya said in a low voice. "This person is quite pitiful." It wasn't easy for him to summon an orange card, but he ended up acknowledging Yi Hua. From the looks of it now, he seems to be doing quite well, and yet he was messed with by Qing Yutong again. Sigh, Yi Hua couldn't help but say, "He threatened to kill us. I feel that what Yutong did is still too light." Hearing that, Qingya didn't say anything. "Recently, I have been quarreling with him frequently this year. Could this be the legendary 7-year itch? However, this 7-year itch seems to have passed already. Forget it, I am taking care of my child today. I don't want to quarrel with you." Qingya said in a low voice. "Could it be that my menopause is coming? That's why my temper is a bit more violent? Do you think that I want to quarrel with you?" Yi Hua said coldly. In actuality, Qingya felt that it was all Yi Hua's fault that Yen turned into such a scumbag. Donghuang Baiji also quarreled with Yi Hua, but when she heard that her son actually took the initiative to look for a girlfriend, she felt that it was a good thing. Thus, her mood also became better and she wasn't as irritable as Qingya. The miserable shrieks outside were still continuing. Those summoned figures looked as if they had seen their enemy and began beating up Feng Yun without any regard for their lives. "Reboot is successful, master." Following that, those summoned figures finally stopped beating up Yi Hua. Afterward, Yi Hua looked at Feng Yun doubtfully. Feng Yun let out a sigh of relief. I was almost trampled to death. However, just when Feng Yun felt relieved, a foot stepped onto his face, and the beating was still continuing. Crashing. Currently rebooting. Crashing. Currently rebooting. Crashing. Currently rebooting. I'm going to die. System crashing. About to self-destruct. System crashing. About to self-destruct. System crashing. About to self-destruct. Feng Yun went into a daze. Didn't I just scold you once and you want to self-destruct? Is your heart that weak? Big brother, don't collapse. If you collapse, I will collapse too. We appeared in this world together and we said that we will walk to the peak hand in hand. Why do you want to collapse and leave me? Can't you give me a reason? Big brother, I was wrong, alright? In the future, Feng Yun, will definitely not scold you anymore. Without you, how am I going to live? Everything that I have right now will become nothing. Don't, suddenly. Feng Yun felt that the beating had stopped. When he opened his eyes, all of his subordinates who were beating him up just now had all disappeared. Chapter 1288. At this moment, Feng Yun was stunned. Although his entire body was in pain, he still rubbed his eyes. System? System? Are you still there? Feng Yun asked blankly. However, there was no longer any response in his mind. Feng Yun's pupils gradually became hollow. All of his strength came from the system. At this moment, countless dookie poured out from his body. This was a very huge dookie and everyone could feel it, causing them to be very astonished. Why did Lord Feng become like this? He clearly brought people over, but the other party just stood up, and then his subordinates started to rebel. Furthermore, he even punched and kicked Lord Feng, and afterward he mysteriously disappeared. Just what is going on? Ha, ha ha ha. Feng Yun, who couldn't take the blow, suddenly let out a crazy laughter. This kind of laughter made people's hair stand on end, because this was a laughter that carried despair. The crazy Feng Yun laughed continuously and then rushed out. His figure gradually disappeared, and that laughter of despair could still be heard. Qingya looked at her sister. Qing Yutong spread out her hands. I didn't know that this would happen either. So, I have to ask my system. Just what is going on? Why did they all disappear? Master, the other party's system seems to have been threatened by my underling, so they chose to remove the binding. Qing Yutong was shocked. You still have underlings? That's right, Master. In any case, I am also the big boss of the system world now. Qing Yutong, no wonder I was told to hug brother-in-law's thigh from the start, so he already had such a plan. This is truly impressive. The boss of the shop swallowed his saliva and secretly took a glance at Yi Hua. I feel that these people are not that easy to mess with. Look at Lord Feng, he is already scared to the point of going crazy. Who would dare to mess with him anymore? The organizing committee probably wouldn't dare to come after receiving such news. The organizing committee is not only stingy, they also bully the weak and fear the strong. They are a typical fence-sitter series. Yi Hua also didn't want to make a big deal out of this. After all, he came to pick up the children, so he should keep a low profile. The place that the children lived in was much higher class. After all, they were the trump cards of both parties. At the same time, they also felt a wave of Do Qi dispersing, expressing that they were very curious. Although they were curious, the children didn't take it to heart. They were currently preparing for tomorrow's battle. However, the current God Yi was not in the mood at all. Daddy's order was like a mountain, pressing down on him so much that he could not breathe. If it was to fight and kill, it would still be fine. But to ask me to chase after a girl, it is simply too difficult. God Yi was thinking if he should change his target. With that thought in mind, God Yi wanted to slap himself. How could he have such a thought? He had to know when to retreat. This is wrong. Hello, senior brother. Hello, senior brother. Hello, senior brother. God Yi walked in the Broken Pulse Sect's collective inn. All the disciples there were there to participate in the battle. There was also a garden in the inn, so God Yi decided to try his luck. God Ye's luck was pretty good. He quickly discovered Lu Xiener's whereabouts, but God Ye's expression turned a little sour. That was because Lu Xiener was talking to a disciple. God Yi saw that the disciple's robe was bulging, so he must be muscular. Sure enough, Lu Xiener liked muscular and dazed men. Look at him, he smiles when talking to others, but he keeps a straight face when talking to me. You're making me, God Yi, very unhappy. If Yi Yen were to teach God Ye's younger brother how to flirt with girls, perhaps God Yi would be able to get rid of singlehood. God Yi walked toward Lu Xiener with a cold expression. Greetings, senior brother. The disciple standing in front of Lu Xiener greeted respectfully. Although he was older than God Ye's backer was supreme everlasting hatred. In the academy, all disciples had to call him senior brother. Even some teachers had to be respectful. His backer was very powerful. However, Lucien did not like this kind of playboy. He was arrogant just because he was handsome and had a strong backer. Others might like you, God Yi, but I, Lucien, don't care. I have something to say to her, God Yi said coldly. Go ahead, senior brother. The disciple smiled apologetically. He felt that it was better to talk less to Lucien in the future to avoid provoking God Yi. Lucien glared at God Yi and asked coldly, God Yi, what do you want? Be my woman. Impossible. Why? God Yi questioned. If Yi Yin were there and saw the situation, he would definitely knock his younger brother's head. If you flirt like this, you'll never get a wife in this life. Don't you know that there are ways to flirt? Because I don't like you. Why don't you like me? Lucien was speechless. God Yi, I'm telling you, I, Lucien will never be your woman. Even if all the men in this world die, I, Lucien will never look for you. God Yi did not panic after hearing that. It seemed like his mother had said something like that in the past, but it was only a few days ago. How sweet. Lucien, be my woman. God Yi suddenly reached out and grabbed Lucien's delicate hand. It was his first time touching a girl's hand. God Yi felt good. It was soft, much better than his sister's hands. Lucien did not expect God Yi to make such a frivolous move. She immediately slapped him. God Yi's strength was already very high. If he was given some time, he would definitely be on par with the 7 deadly sins. He grabbed Lucien's wrist and said in a deep voice, You want to hit me? That's right, you pervert. I'm a pervert. God Yi was instantly upset. Since when am I a pervert? If you're not a pervert, then what are you? God Yi was a little angry. I've been chasing you for so long, yet you don't give me any face at all. You even call me a pervert. Then I'll do what a pervert should do. Looking at those delicate red lips, God Yi kissed her in front of everyone's eyes. Lucien's eyes bulged and stared at God Yi. Meanwhile, God Yi also looked at Lucien's charming eyes. Although the two of them were kissing and everyone else had their eyes closed, they were looking at each other. It was as if it was not a kiss but mainly a look at each other. It was God Yi's first time feeling a kiss. Soft lips with a hint of sweetness. So this is how kissing feels. Not bad, not bad. No wonder Daddy likes to kiss Mommy so much. However, God Yi frowned slightly after a while. A bloody taste spread in his mouth. Pervert. Lucien shouted softly, then ran away while covering her face. God Yi wiped his lips. This woman actually bit me. I'm starting to like her a little. Men just like those that they can't get. Those that are easy to get, they won't care. God Yi glanced at the surrounding disciples. The disciples who were watching the commotion immediately turned around, indicating that they did not see anything. Chapter 1289. God Yi kept a straight face and walked toward his room. He would let Lucien have a good look at his muscles tomorrow. On the other side, Yihua didn't plan to stay at any inn. He might as well choose a place within the maple forest and camp there. Not to mention, this place was very suitable for couples to date. It was just that the main body had already passed that stage and had even developed to the stage of quarreling. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't have the mood to coax them anymore. Just let them do whatever they want. Lying on the comfortable recliner, Yihua smoked a cigarette. His subordinates were barbecuing in the back. They had eaten the sumptuous meal made by the Blood Demon for lunch, but they were still not satisfied. They still wanted the Blood Demon to barbecue more food. Right now, Yihua was currently thinking about what he should do after bringing the children back. Should he keep the children by his side, or continue to let them roam the world? If Donghuang Baiji were to continue adventuring outside, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji would most likely be unwilling to do so. However, Yihua thought in his heart, I reckon that if the children were to stay at home for a period of time, the mother wouldn't be able to take it anymore. As the saying goes, when the children are not around, I miss them. When the children are around, I want them to go out. Yihua let out a light breath, then picked up the wine cup at the side and took a sip. Right now, I, the Supreme Overlord, can really go and become a monk. If it wasn't for them needing me, I, the Supreme Overlord, wouldn't have taken the initiative. What was going on? Where did all the passion from back then go? I, the Supreme Overlord, can't be sick, right? Just thinking about it makes me a little scared. Could it be that there's something wrong with my mind? Do I need to see a therapist? It would be fine as long as he didn't go to the andrology department. Lowering his head to take a look, Yihua let out a breath. Your Honor, the chicken wings that you wanted are ready. Wei Chang walked over with the chicken wings. Yihua took over the chicken wing and turned his head around to take a look. In the past, it was always them who came to deliver things to me, but right now it was Wei Chang who came to deliver things to me. From this, it could be seen just how inflated these women are. Forget it, I, the Supreme Overlord, do not have the mood to care about this anymore. Just let them do whatever they want. After eating the chicken wing, Yihua's mood became a lot better. Standing up, Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then walked towards the darkness. Not long after, Yihua saw a figure. Rinyao, what are you standing here for? Rinyao giggled and even shook her body. Yihua said faintly, remember to wash your hands. Understood, Your Honor. Rinyao eagerly ran back. As for washing my hands, that will depend on my mood. Yihua heard a plop sound and turned his head around to take a look. Rinyao had actually fallen onto the ground and was twitching. Due to Rinyao's usual behavior, it was very possible that she was just fooling around. Thus, Yihua didn't pay attention to her. However, after walking a few steps, Yihua stopped, turned around and walked towards Rinyao. What happened? Yihua asked gravely as he flipped Rinyao's body over. Rinyao's face was a bit pale, and even her lips were trembling. Yihua stretched out his palm and emitted out a green halo of light that enveloped Rinyao within. The green light naturally attracted the attention of the subordinates and all of them ran over. Your Honor, what's wrong? Zhu Tian asked respectfully. Yihua shook his head and didn't say anything as he looked at Rinyao, who was acting strangely. For so many years, Rinyao did not have any abnormal behavior. Yihua feels that Rinyao's abnormal behavior is most likely because of the guardian. Gradually, Rinyao calmed down. However, her face looked as if she had lost too much blood. Yihua waited silently, and his subordinates didn't dare to say anything. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Rinyao opened her eyes, and what entered her eyes were a lot of heads. She was so scared that she crossed her arms around her chest. You all? Don't, what are you thinking about? Yihua shouted coldly and Rinyao immediately stood up. Rinyao looked as if she was suffering from hypoglycemia and was on the verge of collapsing. Yihua asked again, what happened just now? Rinyao went into a daze. Just now? What happened to me? Nothing much, I just feel a bit dizzy, that's all. Rinyao rubbed her head. I really feel a bit dizzy and I don't remember anything that happened just now. You don't remember anything? Yihua asked. Rinyao shook her head, expressing that she really doesn't remember. Yihua let out a breath, then continued walking towards the darkness while smoking his cigarette. The faint sparks gradually disappeared. I feel that His Honor is a bit strange. Lai Gu suddenly said. All of the subordinates nodded their heads. In recent years, His Honor is indeed a bit strange, he doesn't seem to be very happy. Could it be that it is because of His Honor's wife? All of the subordinates shifted their gaze towards the four madams. Qingya and the others pursed their lips. What does this have to do with us? His Honor couldn't have an endocrine disorder, right? Qing Su said faintly. As a medical researcher, Qing Su raised his own opinion. Pig liver macaque rubbed onto his chin. If that is really the case, is there any way to treat it? Qing Su said in a deadpan manner, that would definitely require yin and yang to be balanced. I will have to trouble the four madams. Qingya and the others' faces turned red, then turned around and left the scene. However, in the darkness, Yihua, who was hiding behind a tree, silently nodded his head. Not bad, not bad. This Qing Su and Pig Liver Macaque are working together very well. Whether or not I can fly tonight, I will be able to find out in a while. The morning of Maple Forest Valley was a bit cold, but as the sun shone down, it gave off a kind of warmth. Yihua twisted his neck, indicating that he felt comfortable. This trick seems to be not bad, but I can't use it too often, I have to change to another trick. If Qingya were to answer, what is the longest road that you have walked on, then Qingya would definitely say, the longest road that I have walked on, and that is Yihua's trick. Today was the first day of the competition. Yihua woke up very early and was very excited. After all, he was going to be able to see the children very soon. From this point, it could be seen that Yihua's love towards the children was no less than Qingya and the others, just that he didn't show it. Men have different ways of expressing themselves. However, regarding Rinyao's abnormality last night, Yihua kept it in his heart. I feel that this year won't be that peaceful anymore. Perhaps, those guardians are starting to take action. However, right now the children are still the most important. After so many years, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the children have grown up. The martial arts competition venue this time is very environmentally friendly. That is, in the air, the martial arts competition venue can be said to be even more environmentally friendly, and the only thing that can be seen is the air. The venue is simply stingy to the extreme. Not using the stage, the seats are just air. Booing sounds could be heard from the scene. This organizing committee is really trash. Don't they even have this bit of money? Although we are going to be sitting in the air, from this angle, we are still able to admire the entire Maple Forest Valley. Yihua feels that this arrangement is not bad. Right now we just have to wait for the children to appear. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were very nervous, and they were even tightly holding on to Yihua's hands. We have been separated for 12 years. This is not just 12 days, the longing for their mother gushed out like a flood, and even Qingya and Donghuang Baiji felt that. Chapter 1290. If the children were to appear now, I would not be able to hold back the longing in my heart and immediately rush up, hug the children, and tell them how much mommy misses you. And your father forbids us to go and watch. Just that Yihua's current nervousness was no less than theirs. I will be able to see the children soon. The subordinates watched the children grow up, although it was only a short few years, they still missed them a lot. Especially Ali and Yener, they had more contact with the children, while God Yi and Yi Lu had less contact. The children back then have all grown up now. I'm really looking forward to it. The number of people who came to watch the battle reached more than 100,000. They sat in layers in the sky, forming a dense mass. Everyone. All kinds of seniors. The annual martial arts competition will begin in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. This year is different from the past. Meridian Break Sect. Shin Academy will be sending out their strongest trump card. Just whose trump card will be the strongest? Let us wait and see. First, participants, please come onto the stage. First, Shin Academy. This host is not bad, at least that is what Yihua feels. However, right now, Qingya was a bit more nervous. My son and daughter are both inside the Deity Academy, and I will be able to see them soon. I wonder how they are right now. So excited. I wonder if Yener is what they said. If it is true, I will have to give him a good scolding. Of all people to learn from, why must he learn from your father and become a scumbag? Right now, Yi Yen and Yi Lu were standing at the side of the team. They were naturally the last to appear. Lu, are you nervous? It has been 12 years, you will be able to see big sister and little brother soon. Yi Yen said with a slight smile. Although he wanted to get first place and receive his father's praise, he still had brotherly feelings in his heart. Thinking about his childhood with big sister, Yi Yen revealed a happy smile. Back then, he and big sister went around causing trouble everywhere. I was really happy back then. But as we grew up, it seems that some things can't be done anymore. Big sister is already a big girl now, right? When the time comes, mom will definitely urge us to get married. And Godye's little brother, that ice lump, I heard that he is still an ice lump. He did not change at all. It's all right. Yi Lu said lightly. Although she said it was all right, she was actually very happy in her heart. She was going to be able to see big sister and big brother soon. Although they were enemies, she was still very excited. You just open your heart as expected of the cold goddess? Yi Yen teased. Yi Lu rolled her eyes at her brother and snorted. Only to see Deity Institution's disciples gradually walk out, arriving at the center of the competition arena. There weren't that many people, just a dozen or so, all of them Deity Institution's elites. Right now Yihua and Qingya were closely staring at the scene, looking for their children. Yihua, where are the children? Qingya was anxious as she tightly held onto Yihua's hand. Yihua was also very confused and even a bit angry. Where did the children go? Yihua looked towards Zhu Tian, seemingly asking, is this your job as an intelligence officer? Zhu Tian immediately lowered his head. What's going on? Why isn't little honor among them? The whole audience booed. The gimmick of this competition was the battle of trump cards. Now that the trump cards had not been seen, they would definitely be unhappy. The host, who was standing in the void, shouted, "Are you confused? Everyone, don't be anxious. Right now we have invited 2 young experts from the Deity Institution." Applause. However, there was no applause. The atmosphere was a little stiff and there was even a hint of nervousness. This was the first time it had been revealed to the world. Yihua and Qingya let out a sigh of relief. So it turns out that the children are going to appear at the finale. 2 figures slowly walked out from the crowd. At this moment, Qingya saw her children, and she immediately covered her face with her hands, and tears of excitement flowed out from her eyes. It has been 12 years. I have finally seen Yen and Lu. Mom really misses you too. Look at Yen, he has grown taller. So tall he is even as tall as Yihua now. Furthermore he looks so handsome. And my own Lu, she is so beautiful. As Qingya cried and cried, Qingya laughed, and after laughing Qingya cried again. Crying and laughing at the same time is probably how Qingya is described. Yihua looked at the two children, and he was also extremely excited in his heart. However, as the boss, I can't show my emotions, I have to remain calm. Yen, this child is almost catching up to me. And Lu, this appearance, as expected of my daughter, I have nothing to say. When the subordinates saw the appearance of the two children, they were all very excited and started whispering to each other. When the surrounding audience saw Yi Yen and Yi Lu, they all cried out in surprise. After all, the appearance of the two children is really too high. However, after Yi Yen opened his folding fan, the entire audience immediately quietened down. Even Qingya, who was crying tears of joy, was dumbfounded. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Scumbag. Yi Yen liked the current scene very much. Look at me opening my folding fan, these people are all stunned. Just that, Yi Yen was completely unaware that among these people, there was even his father and mother present. If Yi Yen were to know, he would definitely burn the folding fan. This little bastard, he really became a scumbag. Qingya said while panting with anger. Like father, like son, indeed that saying is true. Although Yihua was a bit surprised, he didn't say anything. Scumbag is always better than being scumbag by others. My children can only be scumbags. Yen, is not bad to be able to comprehend this logic. However, Yen just wanted to say, Dad, I really didn't think that much, I was just purely thinking about scumbags, that's all. However, Donghuang Baiji said lightly, perhaps Yen received a blow from something, that's why he became like this. Blow? Qingya asked confusedly. Big sister, if Yen was abandoned by a girl and wanted to take revenge, this possibility is still possible. Qing Yutong said. After hearing that, Qingya thought about it carefully. That's possible, my Yen was actually abandoned by a girl. Yihua felt that he had to ask Yen carefully. If Yen was really abandoned by a girl, I will have to properly teach him a lesson. The men of Yi family only know how to abandon others, how can they be abandoned by others? That doesn't exist. Following after Yi Yen and Yi Lu walked onto the stage, the entire audience burst into cheers. Yi Yen waved his folding fan and walked with an uncaring gait, causing Qingya to explode in anger. Even Yihua doesn't know how to walk like this, seems like my son has learned bad things. Look at your son, he has become a bad child now. Qingya said angrily. Yen isn't your son. Yihua said faintly. This caused Qingya to be angered, and she pinched Yihua with all her might. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. I really want to properly teach Qingya a lesson. Qingya is becoming more and more unreasonable. Even if she is going through menopause, she still shouldn't act like this. Next, let's welcome the disciples of Broken Meridian sect. Dong Huang Li and God Yi were naturally going to be the finale. Chapter 1291. I'm finally going to see Yen. I heard that Yen has become a scumbag. I'm really curious to see how much of a scumbag Yen has become. Dong Huang Li said with a slight smile. Compared to when she was young, Dong Huang Li appeared to be a lot more mature. God Yi said nothing. In the past, he often thought about competing with his sister, but now he was thinking about how to deal with Lu Xiener and complete his father's mission. What? Are you still thinking about Xiener? I heard from Xiener that you kissed her yesterday? God Yi replied calmly. Not bad, you have finally improved. You are a man, you should take the initiative. Dong Huang Li patted onto her little brother's shoulder. Dong Huang Li has finally been enlightened. However, the way you are dressed today, big sister feels that it is a bit unsightly to my eyes. Dong Huang Li couldn't help but say. The clothes that little brother is wearing today is actually a camisole, this is simply showing off my muscles. God Yi said in a deep voice, in order to complete Daddy's mission, I have no choice but to go all out. Dong Huang Li nearly laughed out loud. When did Daddy have such a mission? You must be the one who came up with this mission yourself, right? Work hard then. Dong Huang Li said with a smile. Along with the sound coming from outside, both Dong Huang Li and God Yi walked out. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji was very excited, and her actions were exactly the same as Qing Ya's. Both of her hands were covering her cheeks, and tears of joy flowed out from her eyes. My Ali has become so much taller, has become so much prettier, has become so much prettier. Right now he has become a big beauty and also has a spirit so handsome. He is just as handsome as his father, and even that expression of his is exactly the same as his father. But Shinner's clothes, why are they so revealing? Yihua looked at Ali and smiled. After all, Ali was his first child. Back then, Ali was brought back by the Green and Red brothers. Back then, Ali was only 3 years old. Ali was such an adorable child. In the blink of an eye, my Ali had become a big girl. He couldn't hug Ali like when he was young, and Ali couldn't act like a spoiled child in his arms like when he was young. God Ye's child's personality was actually so similar to the deities. However, this attire, I, the Supreme Overlord, look at you, why do you look so much like a gay? All the subordinates were attracted by God Ye's attire. That was too fashionable. It didn't seem to be mainstream. It was not just Yi Hua and the others, but the entire audience was looking at God Yi as well. His attire was indeed a little weird. Even Lu Xiener took a few more glances at God Yi. Could this guy have suffered some kind of blow? God Yi noticed Lu Xiener's gaze. As expected, this woman likes muscular men. She's fallen for it. Right now, Yi Hua was sighing in his heart. My 2 sons. One of them turned into a scumbag and the other turned into a gay. I really want to beat the shit out of the 2 of them. Luckily, my 2 daughters are still considered normal. Right now, Dong Huangli felt that there was an unusual gaze on her, and she used her gaze to look over. Immediately, he was startled in his heart. This man, could he be my father? It feels so familiar, and the woman beside me, could it be that she is my mother? And those people behind me. Every single one of them is very familiar to me. Dong Huangli hurriedly retracted her gaze. Dong Huangli was a bit nervous in her heart. Although I'm not very sure, I'm at least 90% sure. Father and mother are here. He definitely came to look at my achievements during these few years. Looking at her brother's attire, Dong Huangli felt that she was finished. Very soon, Dong Huangli and God Yi walked to the front. The 4 children finally met, but they only nodded in greeting. Although I really want to go over and hug them, I'm not allowed to do that right now. Dong Huangli looked at Yi Yan. This little brother, when we were young he was my follower. Look at him now, he is so handsome and he is even taller than big sister. Little brother, father and mother are at the scene, you are really courting death. Yi Yan looked at his big sister and had a smile on his face. When we were young, big sister brought your little brother to act cool, and in the future little brother will bring big sister to act cool. Yi Lu looked at her big brother God Yi. When we were young we would often spar with each other and there had never been a victor. The victor is about to be decided. It's just that big brother's attire today is indeed a bit of an eyesore compared to back then. There is a huge difference. God Yi looked at his little sister Yi Lu, and battle intent immediately appeared in his heart. As a big brother, how can I lose to my little sister? After not seeing each other for so many years, let us reunite through a battle. This time big brother will not go easy on me. Yi Hua could tell from the children's aura that these little fellows have very strong battle intent. Not bad, the grouping that I made back then was not wrong. These siblings are very harmonious. If I didn't do that back then, Dong Huangli would be close to Yi Yan and God Yi would be close to Yi Lu. The current situation made them even more united, and it was also within Yi Hua's expectations. In actuality, Yi Hua didn't want the children to do any quests, he just wanted the children to have a closer relationship with each other, and not have a gap between them. These things, what do these women know? Next up was the grouping drawing lots. Of course, it was also possible for the children to draw their own people. After all, infighting had happened before. However, for the strong children, cheating was something that could be done in a matter of minutes. As for the other opponents, the children ignored them. Very quickly, the result of the drawing lots was revealed. God Yi was the first to go up, and his opponent was a disciple from Shin Academy. This made Yi Lu a bit puzzled. What does Big Brother mean by this? He doesn't want to fight with me. Of course, God Yi wanted to fight with Yi Lu, just that he didn't want to fight with Yi Lu. Rather, he wanted to let Lu Xiener see just how developed my muscles are, and that I definitely won't let you down. Dong Huangli was also a bit puzzled. She wanted to fight with Yi Yan to see just how much Yi Yan had improved during these few years. However, Yi Yan's opponent was actually one of his own people, Lin Qing. Yi Yan didn't have any other intentions. After all, he was about to leave. After so many years, this Lin Qing had always wanted to fight with him, and thus Yi Yan decided to grant Lin Qing's wish. Dong Huangli's opponent was changed to Mu Gao. Dong Huangli naturally knew about Mu Gao. Back then, when she had just entered Meridian Break Sect, it was precisely this Mu Gao who tested her and her little brother. Dong Huangli naturally knew what Mu Gao meant. All along Mu Gao had liked me, that's all. It's a pity, you aren't my type. This is also good, in any case I am going to leave soon, so I might as well let this battle end. You should change to another girl that you like. God Yi seems to be chasing after a girl. For him to dress like this, he couldn't possibly be trying to please a girl, right? Qingye asked curiously. How is that possible? Although so many years have passed, God Yi shouldn't be doing such a thing, right? Dong Huang Baiji felt that this wasn't the case. Does my son look like the kind of man who tries to please a girl? Chapter 1292. Yi Hua said faintly, how could my son possibly go and try to please a woman? If that is really the case, break his legs. Give it a try. Dong Huang Baiji said. All of his honor subordinates who were sitting at the back had a slightly strange expression on their faces. This is much more interesting than being in the imperial palace. His honor and his honor's wife's quarrel is especially interesting. At that moment, Qingye's eyes were on the Meridian Break Sex team and she noticed Lu Xian'er's existence. Compared to the other girls, Lu Xian'er was still more outstanding. Therefore, Qingye guessed in her heart that the girl God Yi liked might be her. From the looks of it, he was a good match for God Yi. He had a good temperament and a good height. Baiji, look at that girl. Does God Yi like her? Qingye asked Lu Xian'er. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Lu Xian'er. Dong Huang Baiji felt that this girl was not bad, right? However, she was merely not bad. After all, Dong Huang Baiji was a mother. Dong Huang Baiji still had some requirements for her daughter-in-law. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji did not understand Dong Huang Baiji. What do you think? Qingye asked curiously. That depends on the girl's personality. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was still very important. Qingye nodded her head. Indeed. Since my Yener is looking for a wife, I have to take a look at her too. But by the looks of Yener right now, it seemed like she was having a headache as well. Yi Hua naturally heard the conversation between the two women and looked towards Lu Xian'er. If it was in the past, Yi Hua would definitely look down on Lu Xian'er. However, after experiencing the incident with Yi Hua had gotten over it. As long as the children like Lu Xian'er, it would be fine. As long as the children like Lu Xian'er, it would be fine. These parents were all sizing up Lu Xian'er. However, Lu Xian'er had no idea that she had been targeted. The first battle was God Ye's turn. The audience was looking forward to God Ye's performance to see if it was as the rumors said. If it was not, they would be booing. God Ye's opponent was a disciple from Deity Institution, but that disciple was currently a little afraid. Why was his luck so good to actually encounter Meridian Break Sect's #1 expert? However, as the #1 expert, how could he dress like this? It was really unbecoming of the #1 expert. Even though he had lost his composure, this disciple was still very fearful. Begin. Following the referee's command, the battle between the two sides immediately began. However, God Yi suddenly let out an angry roar, and a noble spirit swept through the scene. He clenched his fists tightly, and the muscles all over his body began to gradually expand. However, he had no intention of attacking, giving off the impression that he was teasing others. The disciple stood foolishly in the void, looking at God Yi in front of him while fiddling with his muscles. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that the #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking Sect was trying to seduce him? Why did he do that? Or was it because he was a homosexual? Not only this disciple but many others felt the same way. My jaw is about to drop to the ground. The martial arts competition has already started, and even after 10 seconds, you are already fiddling with your muscles, or perhaps you are squirming your muscles, acting for the man in front of you to see. The #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking Sect really lived up to his reputation. Dong Huangli looked at her younger brother's current appearance and covered her face with her hand. This idiot, do you really have to be so brazen? Daddy and Mommy are both at the scene, are you going to be slapped to death? Even if you want to wiggle your muscles, you don't have to be so obvious. Lu Xian'er looked at God Yi with her eyes and mouth wide open. He said that he likes me, but I'm so angry. At that moment, Yi Yan and Yi Lu were both dumbfounded. When did God Yi become like this? It's so exciting, this idiot's attributes are full of comical. Awesome. Dong Huang Baiji clenched her fists tightly, wishing that she could tie up her son and bring him back. What is he doing? When did he become like this? The subordinates were also dumbfounded. If God Yi was given an iron rod, he would definitely be able to dance. Yi Hua slightly narrowed his eyes. As expected of my son, this coquettishness is really bursting. At that moment, God Yi secretly glanced at Lucien and realized that the other party was looking at him. She was dumbfounded. Big sister was right, Lucien likes muscular men. This vulgar woman doesn't have any inner qualities at all. However, that doesn't matter, all I have to do is complete my father's mission. However, the mission is not complete yet, I still have to work hard. Suddenly, God Yi made his move. Everyone cried out in surprise. The #1 expert of Broken Pulse sect finally made his move. The other party actually did not react at all, too fast. Too fast. However, in the next second, everyone was dumbfounded. God Yi made a striking posture, revealing the lines of his muscles. This time he was even more like this disciple. This made everyone feel that God Yi was trying to gain this disciple's favor. The disciple looked at God Yi and his scalp felt a little numb. He was showing off his biceps and he even showed me his shark lines. My God, why do I feel like vomiting? Yihua, don't stop me, I want to go and beat this stinking brat up. Donghuang Baiji immediately went berserk. This is simply throwing my face into outer space. Even without Yihua teaching me a lesson, I want to beat this stinking brat up myself. Let's watch first. Yihua said indifferently. Qingya pulled Donghuang Baiji down as well. God Yi is a sensible child, he wouldn't do this for no reason. All of the subordinates felt that if that is the case then his honor. The disciple couldn't take it anymore and immediately threw a punch at God Yihua. Everyone quickly look. Shin Academy's disciple actually made his move. Although his speed and strength aren't that great, the strange God Yi actually didn't dodge. Is this the power of love or is it some other factor? Let us wait and see. The host said with an excited tone. Donghuang Baiji wished that she could twist the host's head off. The power of love. The punch landed ruthlessly on God Ye's abdomen. However, God Yi took this opportunity to show off the muscles on his back. He thought to himself that from Luciener's angle she should be able to see it clearly. I'm also a muscular man. Although my muscles aren't very inflated, it is definitely comfortable to look at. Who asked you to be a superficial woman? There's no helping it. Quickly look. Broken Pulse Sect's God Yi chose to receive the punch, then made a strange posture. Look at the lines of his muscles. Could it be that God Yi is planning to use his own body to confuse the enemy? Looks like he has already reached the highest realm of martial arts, fighting with his brain. Yihua, Donghuang Baiji said angrily. How is this using his brain? He has no brain. Chapter 1293. Baiji, calm down. Our sons are not easy to deal with. Qingya let out a long sigh. Fortunately, my 2 daughters are still considered to be normal people, and this can be considered as a kind of consolation for me. Yihua will definitely have to take the blame for my son becoming like this. Right now, Yihua didn't want to make any statement. I'll say it after I finish looking at it. Donghuang Li turned her head around and took a peek at Lucien and she discovered that Lucien seemed to be about to spit out fire. What's going on? Now there was a wave of hissing sounds. They were not satisfied with this kind of battle. This was simply like playing house, there was not the slightest bit of interest. However, God Yi did not care at all. Compared to the mission, some mockery was nothing. He would teach them a lesson in the future. How dare you mock me, God Yi? He could only repent for today's mistakes in hell. I admit defeat. Just as God Yi was about to show off his abdominal muscles, the disciple finally could not take it anymore. The other party actually used such a tactic to make him surrender. It was simply despicable. Damn it. The audience was silent. The host finally reacted and shouted, "Congratulations to Meridian Break Sect's God Yi for taking the first victory. He defeated his opponent with his own muscles, preventing him from fighting normally. As expected of Meridian Break Sect's trump card, he's so powerful." Everyone, God Yi looked at the disciple in front of him and the latter immediately shrank back. Run now. No one expected that under God Ye's frenzied bombardment, this disciple would actually flee in defeat, which caused a loud roar of laughter. The faces of Shin Academy's side were gloomy, and so were the meridian-breaking sects. Just when everyone thought it was over, God Yi suddenly pointed at Luciener. This action caused everyone to stop talking. Yihua and the others looked at God Yi. This little bastard has done quite a lot of things today. For so many years, is this the kind of report card you show me? It's a straight fail. Lucien, don't you like muscular men? Have you been conquered by my muscles? You don't need to tell me. I understand that girls should be more reserved. From now on, you are my woman. God Yi shouted loudly, which made Lucienne feel like she had lost her soul. She had no idea where she was or what her name was. What? She liked muscular men, but he actually said in front of so many people that she was his woman. How dare he destroy his own reputation? You even made yourself sound so vulgar. Liking muscular men? You're the one liking muscular men. Facing his son's confession, Yi Hua and the others were very surprised. This girl is really someone that God Yi likes. Furthermore, his actions just now were just to gain the girl's favor. Oh my god, Dong Huang Baiji didn't know why, but Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. As long as my son doesn't go in another direction, everything will be fine. So it turns out that Dong Huang Baiji is only acting in front of a girl. Yi Lu looked at her big brother and tightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Big brother actually confessed to me in this kind of situation. Is this still the big brother that I knew in the past? Why was he so flirtatious? No wonder he didn't want to fight with me in the first round. So that's what he wanted. He's really like my brother, a scumbag. Yi Yan felt that right now this younger brother of his will be able to catch up to me. To actually confess to me on the spot, and furthermore it was very domineering. TSK. Impossible. At that moment the host laughed loudly. It seems that our expert did it on purpose just now. He wanted to show off his muscles in front of the girl he loves. It turns out that this girl likes muscular men. That's why God Yi is dressed like this. I have to say, it takes a lot of courage to dress like this on such an occasion. This Lucienne is really lucky. Don't you think so? Yi Yan shouted out loudly, that's right, give her a kiss. Yi Yan really knows how to lead the crowd. Following Yi Yan's shout, everyone started shouting out as well. Very quickly, it became 100,000 people shouting out loudly. Lucienne was really unable to handle this kind of situation. A smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. My son is not bad, his method of chasing after girls is really unique. Brother-in-law, look at God Yi, he's so good at being romantic. Qing Yutong suddenly said softly at the side. Qian Yuqing pursed her lips. Yi Hua seems to have never treated me like this before. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji recalled. This fellow doesn't seem to have ever treated me like this before. Look at your son, he's so much stronger than you. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but say. Yi Hua didn't say anything. We're already an old couple, why do we still want to be romantic? On the stage, God Yi slowly landed in front of Lucienne. However, right now Lucienne's face was completely red. Don't misunderstand, this was not caused by shyness, this was caused by anger. Lucienne. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. At this crucial moment, I still need big sister to help you. After all, daddy and mommy are both here. If Lucienne were to reject little brother at this moment, daddy might not be happy. No matter what, Lucienne is sleeping in the same room as me. With so many years of feelings, how could daddy bear to reject her? Thus, with a light push of his palm, Lucienne immediately felt a force pushing her from behind, pushing her into God Ye's embrace. In the eyes of others, this kind of situation looked like she was taking the initiative. God Yi was astonished. So I was tricked. This woman's tricks are so deep to actually play hard to get. Forget it. You've been wanting to do this for a long time, right? God Yi said softly. Lucienne was currently in a daze. She had no idea what was going on at all, and she didn't even hear what God Yi said. However, that seemed to be a tacit agreement. Everyone, I didn't expect that God Yi would be able to hug the beauty. Furthermore, the beauty seems to be taking the initiative. Let us congratulate them. Yi Hua applauded. Not bad, it's just like me back then. God Yi held onto Lucienne's shoulder, then waved at everyone. Lucienne was dumbfounded. Dong Huangli revealed a smile. Brother, big sister can only help you this much, you idiot. Yi Lu was also feeling happy for her brother. Not bad. Yi Yin had a smile on his face. It was unknown whether he was envious or not. However, the competition continued. At that moment, Yi Hua said faintly, what do you guys think of this girl? We'll see. Dong Huang Baiji was the first to express her opinion. After all, she was her daughter-in-law. Qingya said softly, I feel that as long as she listens to God Yi, there shouldn't be much of a problem. There's nothing wrong with big sister's words, after all, girls have to be obedient. Qing Yutong agreed. However, at that moment Yi Hua interrupted, Oh? You actually know about the principle of women having to be obedient? The four women rolled their eyes at the same time. That's not directed at you, alright? However, I feel that this girl won't be too bad. Since God Yi has taken a fancy to her, she should have something special about her, right? Chen Yuqing raised her opinion. Yuqing is right. Yi Hua supported Chen Yuqing's opinion. Chapter 1294. Your Honor, do you want subordinate to go and take a look? The pig-livered Denglong who was sitting at the back asked respectfully. Yi Hua said faintly, forget it, there's nothing much to investigate. Identity and whatnot isn't important, it's fine as long as the person is good. Everyone was speechless, seemingly thinking of Yi from 12 years ago. The atmosphere was a bit sentimental. This kind of thing only happened once. There was no need for it to happen a second time. Now that his younger brother was about to return, he didn't know if he could keep it a secret. Even if he could satisfy him for a while, he couldn't keep it a secret for a long time. However, now that little brother knew that he had a son, he should be happy. That Gong Yu also had it hard. She had raised a child by herself for 12 years and had always been well behaved. Time could explain a person very well. Gong Yu could be considered a good woman. If I, the Supreme Overlord, were to leave for 12 years, wouldn't Qingya and the others die from complaining? I can't even compare myself with them. Very quickly, it was Yi Yan's turn. His opponent was naturally Lin Qing. As Yi Yan walked onto the stage as his father, Yi Hua naturally had to properly watch the match. How do you guys think Little Honor will win? Lai Gu, who was sitting at the back, asked curiously. Instant kill, Wei Chang said softly. Yizizi propped up her chin and said calmly, how boring is it to instantly kill your opponent? When Ren Yao, who was at the side, heard what Yi Hua said, she thought to herself, since there is no meaning in insta-killing your opponent, why did you insta-kill me back then? You devil who says one thing but means another. Indeed. There's no meaning in instantly killing your opponent. You have to torture your opponent. Qing Su said indifferently. His body didn't change at all. It seemed like he was addicted to being fat. Do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Pig Liver Ho couldn't help but tease. Qing Su didn't think much of it. If you want to inflict the most painful damage on your opponent, you can't solve the problem in one go. On the other hand, Yi Hua felt that what Qing Su said was quite right. Looking at his son's arrogant expression, Yi Hua let out a light sigh. If one were to ask who had changed the most among the children, it would definitely be Yi Yan. Match start. Following the referee's shout, the battle between the two began. Yi Hua. Today I will let everyone know. I Lin Qing can defeat you. Lin Qing didn't hold any weapons, but he seemed very confident. He even pointed his index finger at Yi Yan and shouted. Yi Yan waved his folding fan. The two big words on the folding fan were very eye-catching. Of course, there was also the flute at his waist. Lin Qing, you've always wanted to beat me since you were young, but you've never been able to. What's the motivation that has kept you going until now? Yi Yan was a little confused. Generally speaking, if one suffered such a blow when they were young, they would definitely be traumatized. However, this guy wasn't even knocked down. Instead, he worked even harder. But sometimes, hard work might not necessarily be rewarded, and talent is also very important. Just like me, Yi Yan. I am the son of a supreme overlord. From the moment he was born, his life was like a cheat that no one could stop him. Lin Qing snorted coldly. What motivation? That is the motivation to defeat you. I can't wait for every day to be a little longer so that I can cultivate a little longer. If you defeat me, what will you get? Yi Yan asked indifferently. Got it? You took away my dignity, I will defeat you. Take back my dignity from your hands. Yi Yan was puzzled. When did I take away your dignity? You can't slander a person like this. This was slander. Slander in front of so many people. This is simply a shameless action who likes to take away your dignity. This is such a headache. Lin Qing, you have to think about what you are saying. I don't have the hobby of taking away other people's dignity. If you say, taking away dignity because I can't defeat you, then how much dignity would I have to take away? Don't be so narrow-minded, be more magnanimous. As a man, you have to be able to pick up and let go. Yi Yan had a look of arrogance as he lectured Lin Qing. To actually stand on the moral high ground and criticize me when I was young, I wasn't this shameless. Lin Qing's expression became sinister. I trained bitterly for so many years, all for this moment. To defeat you in front of so many people, and furthermore, I only used one move. One move? When everyone heard what Lin Qing said, they all became a bit absent-minded. Although they had never seen Yi Yan's strength before, this Lin Qing was still a very powerful young man. And yet, he actually said that he only used one move to defeat Yi Yan. It wasn't that he didn't have any credibility. Perhaps he might really be able to make a comeback and become the dark horse this time, then become famous throughout the world. Hearing Lin Cheng's words, Yihua smiled slightly. If you are able to insta-kill Yen in one move, I, the Supreme Overlord, will take you in as my little brother. Qingya expressed that she was angry. This child is really too arrogant, to actually dare to speak such arrogant words. Really just one move? Yi Yen asked with a surprised look on his face. I didn't expect that after so many years, Lin Cheng would become so arrogant. After winning for a few years he can become so arrogant? Lin Cheng stood up straight, stared at Yi Yen and said gravely, this move of mine is specially made for you. It took me 10 years. Today I can finally use it. What you mean is that you are going to use a big move right from the start. What if you can't kill me with this move? Yi Yen couldn't help but ask. Who would use a big move right from the start? Only newbies would do that. However, Lin Cheng seemed to be very confident. This move of mine is more than enough to make you return in defeat. Lin Cheng, do you know how to play landlord? Yi Yen suddenly changed the topic, catching everyone off guard. After Yi Hua and the others heard what Yi Yen said, they were also very puzzled. Just what is this Yen trying to say? Landlord? Lin Cheng expressed that he did not know. However, Yi Yen did not pay attention to Yi Yan's words. Do you know why the king bomb is always used at the end? This is the same logic as well. Hearing what his son said, Yi Hua went into a daze. Not only Yi Hua, even his subordinates went into a daze. That makes so much sense. Why isn't it the king bomb at the beginning? Rather, it should be used at the end. Little Sovereign actually spoke the truth. Yi Hua felt that Yen did not live these past few years in vain. To actually comprehend the logic behind landlord, not bad as expected of my eldest son. Qingya felt very helpless. At such a young age he is already starting to ponder about landlord and even king bomb. How am I supposed to teach him? This is so vexing. Hearing that, Lin Cheng was also confused. Don't talk about these useless things. Are you afraid in your heart? Are you afraid that you are going to lose to me later? You misunderstood. I am just afraid that you are unable to accept the truth. Hearing Yi Yan's indifferent tone, Lin Cheng became very angry. The thing that he disliked the most was Yi Yan's tone. It was as if he was the number one in the world. You will suffer my wrath and stare at my back from the abyss. After finished speaking, Lin Cheng shouted out in anger, and Do Qi suddenly erupted from his entire body. Everyone cried out in surprise. This Do Qi actually reached the level of a spirit ancestor. Chapter 1295. Last year he was only a spirit emperor. In just a short year he actually reached the spirit ancestor realm at such a young age. In the future his achievements will be no small matter. This Yi Yen is very dangerous. Towards the true strength that Lin Cheng displayed, everyone was very surprised. In actuality, Lin Cheng had been keeping a low profile all these years. However, today was the day that he would be showing off. Even Yi Hua had to admit that this Lin Cheng's talent was indeed not bad. To be able to reach the realm of Do Zong at such a young age, among those of the same age, he could be considered as outstanding. However, it was still a pity. After all, Lin Cheng's opponent was his own son. Furthermore, he had to choose Yi Yen as his opponent. This battle was destined to be a losing one. The Duki that erupted from Lin Cheng swept across the entire sky. No matter how powerful a Do Zong was, they could still change the sky. Just like right now, a layer of black clouds enveloped the sky, giving off a strong sense of oppression. Yi Yen slightly raised his head and looked at the sky, then pursed his lips. What a showy scene. However, when Lin Cheng saw Yi Yan's disdainful gaze once again, the anger in his chest increased exponentially, and the pressure on him continued to increase. Everyone. Lin Cheng. This is Lin Cheng of Shin Academy. To be able to reach the realm of Do Zong at such a young age, this is something that we did not expect. However, the trump card of Shin Academy is Yi Yen. I reckon that he is also in the realm of Do Zong. It seems like a dramatic scene is about to appear in the internal battle of Shin Academy. Whether it will be a beautiful counterattack or a tragic end, let us wait and see. In Meridian Break Sect's camp, God Yi had already let go of Lu Xiener. Meanwhile, Lu Xiener's face was currently red. Of course this was because she was angry. Everyone thought that she was God Ye's woman. This bastard. However, there was still an ordinary youngster in the camp, and that was Mu Gao. He had liked Dong Huangli for a long time. Just now, when he saw that God Ye's confession was successful, he thought to himself, should I also imitate God Yi and confess to Dong Huangli? This Lin Cheng is quite something. Dong Huangli said softly. God Yi nodded his head, Among those of the same age, this Lin Cheng can be considered outstanding. Unfortunately, he ran into Yi Yan. You make it sound like you're very powerful, Lu Xian'er couldn't help but say. God Yi turned to look at Lu Xian'er and said faintly, Xian'er, now that you're my girlfriend, you should understand that you must listen to me and never question my decisions. Do you understand? Since it's your first time, I'll let it go. Don't make the same mistake again. Lu Xian'er was so angry that she laughed. Who said I want to be your girlfriend? Everyone saw it just now. I know you're a little shy, so I don't blame you. I understand. It's so beautiful. Don't talk. Lu Xian'er was speechless. At the scene, Lin Cheng's battle energy had reached its peak. He was ready to unleash his ultimate move. Yan. This is my own creation. Prepare for the baptism. Oh? You can even create your own? Yan was slightly surprised. Self-creation wasn't a joke. It might even cause him to explode to death. It seemed like Lin Cheng was indeed capable. Lin Cheng said nothing and suddenly pressed his palms together. Pah! A shockwave spread out from his hands and a strong wind howled. Thunder and lightning crackled and rumbled as he sensed the world around him. With my life, I punish the evil spirit. Your efforts are futile. Call for me again. Divine Book 101, Death Song. The entire place was silent, especially on the side of the Shin Academy. Because the Divine Book only had 100 chapters at most, this Lin Cheng actually created 101 chapters. How could this not be shocking? The Divine Book was written by someone above the supreme level. It was the Shin Academy's strongest attack. The higher the number, the more powerful it was. After Yi Hua saw it, he frowned slightly. This Divine Book was indeed not bad. Qing Yutong felt that this Shin Academy was very similar to the Heavenly Ceiling Ghost chart that she encountered in Water City back then. They were both very powerful Dao techniques. It should be Dao techniques, but she didn't really understand. However, in the entire team it seemed like no one knew this Dao technique. Therefore Yi Hua allowed Yi Yan and Yi Lu to go to the Deity Academy to study. At the scene, countless golden rays of light condensed around Yi Yan. Every single golden ray of light brought along a terrifying aura. Yi Yan slightly narrowed his eyes and waved his folding fan. Lin Cheng, you are indeed not bad. I have to praise you. Yi Yan really wanted to praise Lin Cheng. He wasn't joking because Lin Cheng really created his own technique. On the basis of the Divine Book, he added his own technique. This idea was indeed not bad. His talent was also very shocking. Praise me? I don't need your praise, Lin Cheng said coldly. Beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. It was clear that this technique was a bit strenuous for him. Yi Yan lightly laughed. This song shouldn't be finished yet, right? Lin Cheng's gaze darkened. It was clear that Yi Yan was right. After the Divine Book 90 chapters, the song requires a lot of time and the number of words is quite high. The power of your death song is indeed not bad, but it is still not the peak. If this song is not perfected, it won't work. However, I was thinking it's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't do it. Look at you now, you are already very tired. Hearing Yi Yan's words, Lin Cheng's expression didn't look good because Yi Yan had hit the nail on the head. It was because the power was too great that he couldn't completely sing it. He could only sing a third of it, but it was also the strongest attack. However, Yi Yan continued, actually, I feel that the Divine Book's music will take longer to sing towards the end. In a real battle, the enemy won't give you time to sing. They would have already slashed over. The Divine Book was very strong, but the Divine Book's music was a bit useless. It could only be used for teamwork and was rarely used in individual battles. Even if Lin Cheng was right, Yi Yan, this daring guy, would give him time to sing it and then regret it. Therefore, the real value lies in not singing it. Yi Yan said with a faint smile. Then he snapped his fingers and lightly said, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 89, Space Split. Yi Yan's body was instantly wrapped in a rectangular shape. It looked like a mirror. It wasn't very gorgeous, but its defense was very abnormal. That was not the point. After Yi Yan used the non-singing version of the Divine Book's music, the whole place became really quiet. As his opponent, Lin Cheng's eyeballs almost popped out. Everyone from the Divine Book was stunned. Of course, that was except for Yi Lu. For her brother, not singing it was all done in his 3rd year in the academy. It was just that no one knew about it, and she actually used 3.5 years. What's more, her brother's talent was indeed better than hers. Chapter 1296. Everyone, everyone in the audience. He had thought that Lin City would be a dark horse by hiding his strength. But the situation had changed. The death song Lin Qing used was extremely powerful, unprecedented in deity institution as well. However, the unsung music of the holy book. This was unprecedented. But Yi Yan did it. Yan. Worthy of being deity institution's trump card. You've shown us what a true genius is. The referee's impassioned words made the atmosphere even more fiery. The audience cheered, but in Lin Cheng's ears, these cheers sounded like mocking laughter. Yihua looked at his son. Receiving such cheers from his son is indeed a great honor. Not only Yihua, even Qingye felt that there was light on her face. The pride of a son is the pride of a parent. This kind of feeling is truly not bad. This fellow has grown quite a bit. Dong Huangli looked at her brother Yi Yan and said lightly. God Yi nodded in agreement. The divine book music of the Divine Academy is not an ordinary dharma. It's not bad that it doesn't need to be sung. You make it sound like you're very powerful. Lu Xian, couldn't help but ridicule. God Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, Xian, you're going to be my wife from now on. Watch your words. I don't want this to happen a third time. It seemed that God Yi had indeed inherited Yihua's domineering nature. Back then Yihua had also treated Qingye and Donghuang Baiji like this. It was just that later on the situation became a bit better. Lu Xianer was very unhappy. She had never seen such a shameless man. Who wants to be your wife? You must be really arrogant. At this moment Lin Cheng was panting heavily, his eyes filled with rage. This Yi Yan. He didn't even need to chant. Just this alone made him much stronger than him. Don't look down on me. Don't forget. Space Split is only chapter 89. You can't block my death song. Lin Qing roared angrily at the sky. The veins on his temples looked as if they were about to burst. Those who did not know better would think that they had some kind of blood feud to make such a big fuss. The golden radiance around Yi Yan moved out with destruction. Immediately, the radiance was so bright that people couldn't help but raise their hands to block it. Bang 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 bang. All of the golden radiance exploded. Yi Yan's surroundings were filled with smoke and mist. Everyone didn't know what was happening and could only stare at Yi Yan closely. That power just now was extraordinary. Could Yi Yan resist it? However, Yi Yan didn't use any other defenses just now. Did he give up? Yihua, Qingye, and the others expressed that they were very calm. How can our son be defeated so easily? Even if he stood still, he could still use his physical body to defend. As for why he used a defensive move, Yihua thought to himself. My son knows how to act cool now. He really didn't let go of any opportunity. He had the demeanor of his father in the past. As the smoke dispersed, a black figure gradually appeared in front of everyone. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was actually all right. Although the explosion just now was not very big, its power was not to be underestimated. It was really blocked. When the smoke completely dissipated, the golden radiance was like the tip of a blade, piercing into Yi Yan's side. However, it was unable to move at all. How is this possible? Lin Cheng's face tightened in disbelief. Yi Yan imitated Lin Cheng's expression and exclaimed, How is this possible? It was impossible for Broken Space Strike to block it. Impossible. Lin Cheng appeared to be a bit malevolent. The roar that he let out made everyone feel that he didn't dare to believe what was happening in front of him. Then, let me explain to you why my Broken Space Strike was able to block it. Yi Yan snapped his fingers and Broken Space Strike shattered like glass. Of course, the ode of death that was pierced into the Broken Space Strike was still there. However, this thing shouldn't be called ode of death, it should be called ode of death. Towards Yi Yan's action of snapping his fingers, everyone felt that it was very cool and could be imitated. However, Qingye knew that Yener was imitating Yihua, teaching his son these flashy actions. Yihua looked at Qingye's expression and said faintly, What's wrong? In the past, didn't you say that this action of mine was very cool? But now, I don't think so anymore. Hee women? Yihua laughed lightly. Sure enough, before and after marriage they are two different people. Scumbag, after getting my body this is her attitude. In the past, she would act coquettishly in all sorts of ways. Look at what she has become now, contradicting me in all sorts of ways. Explain? I don't need your explanation. Hearing what Yihua said, Lin Qing became even angrier. That arrogant look on your face, who do you think you are? Are you the son of the King of Heaven? Lin Qing seems to be the right person this time. The broken space strike in your eyes is only the broken space strike in your eyes. That depends on who is using it, am I right? Yi Yan opened up his folding fan and lightly waved it. His acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Furthermore, the title of Act Tough King Yi was about to be transferred to Yi Yan. The entire audience went into an uproar. This Yi Yan is not bad, no matter if it is in terms of strength or in terms of mouth. He is using strength to attack Lin Qing. In any case, we are all from the same place. This is really a case of killing each other. Yi Yan is really not letting go of any opportunity. After hearing what Yi Yan said, Lin Qing's face became distorted and sinister as he pointed at Yi Yan and said, "You are saying that I am weaker than you?" Your tone is filled with doubt. In actuality, everyone has already seen it. You are indeed weaker than me. Seeing that we are from the same sect, you should just admit defeat and get down from the stage. Yi Yan said faintly. In actuality, he didn't really want to hurt Lin Qing. After all, this fellow only wanted to win against me. All these years, Lin Qing had been diligently training and didn't play any tricks. A person who only wanted to win against me in battle, this kind of person can still be counted as a man. You want me to admit defeat? The muscles on Lin Qing's face began to tremble, and his entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, the aura that Lin Qing was emitting started to rise again. This caused Yi Yan to be a bit surprised. If not for my existence, this Lin Qing would be the brightest star in the world. What a pity after I appeared, this star dimmed down. Perhaps this is fate. Lin Qing, there is no benefit in winning against me. Even if there isn't, I also want to win against you. As long as I can win against you, I am willing to do anything. Lin Qing roared furiously. Do Qi surged out from all of his body and formed a light pillar that charged into the clouds. The black cloud seemed to have been pierced through, and a heavenly eye appeared. The entire audience cried out in surprise. What is this situation? Could it be that this Lin Qing still has a big move? Yi Yan slightly wrinkled his brows as he kept the folding fan in his hand and shouted out gravely, "Lin Qing, are you crazy?" "Ah, I'm crazy. I'm not crazy, I want to win against you. I want to be number one." Lin Qing shouted out loudly. His strength actually rose from Do Zong to Do Di. Chapter 1297. Right at this moment, Yi Hua said faintly, "This Lin Qing is a good seedling." After hearing that, Qing Yutong asked curiously, "Brother-in-law, do you have any thoughts?" "It's nothing, I'm just saying that. Although this person is a good sapling, his desire to win is too strong, to the extent that he didn't even hesitate to use all of his Do Qi. I'm afraid that in the future." Yi Hua was a little regretful. After all, this method of doing things was completely meaningless, and this child called Lin Qing had already been blinded by his own desire to win. Qian Yuqing sighed. Youngsters nowadays were always like this. Yeah, youngsters are too impatient. That was what Yi Hua and Qian Yuqing were thinking. However, the majority of the people that were present felt that this was what a real battle was, and this was what made everyone's blood boil. Let's not waste any more words, we'll just do it. Lin Qing, although I don't really like you, your actions will only make me look down on you even more. Yi Yan said solemnly. He was clearly out of energy, but he still acted like he wanted to die with me. I was really annoyed. Lin Qing's eyes were already bloodshot. He couldn't control his powerful battle energy right now. His entire body felt like it was about to explode. Look down on me? Ian, I look down on you. You're always sloppy and ignorant. Why does everyone fancy you and not me? How is my forest city inferior to you? When you were kissing the girl, I was working hard on my cultivation. When you broke up with the girl, I was also working hard on my cultivation. I didn't dare to slack off. My strength is the result of my hard work. As for you, Yin, what have you worked so hard for? When everyone heard this, they fell silent. This might sound unfair, but it was an unfair thing. No matter how hard you worked, you couldn't compare to someone who was born invincible. Yin looked at Lin Qing. He didn't expect Lin Qing to have such an idea. How can you understand my hard work? Yi Yan clenched his fists and shouted, as if he was going to reveal the inside story that no one knew about. Yi Hua and Qingye looked at their son and were very curious about what their son was going to say. All of the subordinates felt that little sovereign must have suffered a lot these few years, and it was the kind of suffering that they themselves would not be able to experience. The children were so pitiful. Seeing Yi Yan's reaction, Lin Qing was stunned. Looking at Yi Yan's serious expression, could it be that he had guessed wrong? Could it be that he was also training hard? Yi Yan shouted coldly, "How do you know the pain I'm suffering? You guys always say that Yi Yan don't need to cultivate to be so powerful, but do you know The determination behind it. Everyone swallowed their saliva. Sure enough, every genius was built with sweat. Forest City. Have you experienced the feeling of insomnia at night? Lin Qing. I often suffer from insomnia at night, which leads to a loss of appetite. I can't even eat well. Can you understand this hardship? Look, I'm losing my hair. If this continues, I'm going to go bald. The audience instantly quietened down. Yihua looked at his son and thought that his son was going to talk about some great principle, but in the end your son came here to make a joke. Not to mention your mother was successfully amused by you. Qingya was indeed covering her mouth and laughing lightly. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too many people present, Qingya would have patted her stomach and laughed out loud. This Yen is a bit amusing. Dong Huangli smiled as well. This Yen, just a moment ago I thought that you were sympathizing with your opponent and were preparing to enlighten your opponent. So, it turns out that you are the one who is in the wrong. I knew it. How can such a good person appear in our Yi family? Such a person doesn't exist. This Yi Yen is too bad to actually say such a thing. Lu Xiener, who didn't know the truth, said coldly. God Ye's brows tightened. Xian, since you entered Yi family, then Yi Yen is your big brother, do you understand? Lu Xian, cried out in surprise. Her brain was a bit unable to process what was going on. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, shook her head. For God Yi to tell such a thing to Lu Xiener, then Lu Xiener would either become his sister-in-law, or… Lin Qing knew that he was being toyed with again, and his chest heaved up and down. Pooh! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Lin Qing's mouth. Yen. 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 Lin Qing shouted out 3 times, then spread out both of his arms. Yi Yen held onto his forehead, feeling helpless. Red starlight, grandeur of fire, burn this, pot. The audience became silent. Yi Yen raised his right hand and muttered, It's not like there's any deep hatred. Is there a need to commit suicide? You're crazy. Following Yi Yan's stance, no one was able to react to what happened just now. What happened just now was too fast, no one was able to see it clearly. Everyone, I know what you guys are thinking. I didn't see it clearly myself just now, but I can deduce that before Lin Qing could even start singing, he was already sent flying away. Although he was sent flying away, Yi Yan still indirectly saved Lin Qing's life. This kind of moral character is worthy of praise. Let us give Yi Yan a round of applause. The audience immediately applauded. Hearing the applause, Yi Yan pouted his mouth. Brother, actually, you might as well just kill him. Yi Lu said lightly. Yi Yan rubbed onto his little sister's head and said with a slight smile, If I kill him now, what will I do in the future? Yi Lu went into a slight daze, then, as if she understood what her brother meant, she laughed lightly. As expected, like father, like child. At such a young age, Yi Yan has already started to groom his opponent. At this moment, Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, Yan, this child's heart is still good. That's right, fortunately he didn't become like that, he. This sentence was very obviously directed at Yihua. Yihua didn't pay attention to Yihua, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. How could these women possibly understand Yi Yan's intentions? This child is not bad, I like him. Not only did Yihua understand, every single one of the 7 great sins understood that little sovereign was intentionally not killing Lin Qing because he wanted to attract hatred. If that were to happen, Lin Qing would definitely be affected and become Yi Yan's strong enemy in the future. Indeed, when Lin Qing, who was lying in the pit, heard the cheers coming from outside, his eyes became lifeless. However, his hands were still tightly clenched. Unwillingness, anger, hatred, all of the negative emotions were lingering in Lin Qing's mind. If Lin Qing doesn't have the right person to guide him, he will definitely walk towards darkness in the future. However, all of this was within Yi Yan's plan. I, Yi Yan, am a man of Yi family. How can I be someone that you can kill whenever you want to? Not killing you today is already the greatest kindness that I have shown you. Don't let this kindness become worthless. Properly enjoy your life. Don't make any more pointless struggles. Perhaps, the next time we meet, it might really be the day that you die. It's my turn to go on stage. Dong Huangli raised both of her hands and did a set of broadcast calisthenics. Dong Huangli was a bit nervous in her heart. After all, her father and mother are watching her. I have to perform well. Chapter 1298. Ali is going to appear. Dong Huang Baiji said happily. It has been a long time since I last looked after my daughter. Right now, my daughter is a slim and elegant lady. Qing Yutong teased. Do you guys think that Ali has a boyfriend? I don't think so, Qingya said lightly. Yihua pursed his lips. My daughter's personal problem is also a headache for me. I wonder if there is a man who is worthy of Ali and Lu. It is still fine if it is a boy, but it is more troublesome for a daughter. After all, she's going to marry out. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable. On the stage, Dong Huangli's beautiful figure had already walked out. Of course, Mu Gao's disciple was also there. Mu Gao was 3 years older than Dong Huangli. When he first met Dong Huangli, he fell in love with her. Speaking of Mu Gao, he doesn't look very handsome, he is considered normal, but he gives off a very honest feeling. He isn't very strong, he only has the strength of a king realm fighter. Compared to a genius, he is very far behind. Mu Gao looked at Dong Huangli and felt that, if I don't say it out today, I might see it in the future. Just now, God yes, confession succeeded, I should try it out too. In actuality, after so many years, Dong Huangli and Mu Gao's relationship was that of ordinary friends. When they met, they would chat a bit, but they weren't close friends. The main reason was that Mu Gao didn't dare to chat and Dong Huangli wasn't interested either. Everyone. This is the internal battle of Broken Line sect, Dong Huangli. She is the trump card of Broken Line sect, and Mu Gao is also a rising star of Broken Line sect. Let us wait and see. This will be a hot-blooded battle, or a one-sided battle. Along with the host's words, everyone in the audience laughed. He really doesn't give any face at all. Chen Yuqing said curiously, why do I feel that this boy seems to be interested in Ali? Along with what Chen Yuqing said, Dong Huang Baiji also watched seriously. That seems to be the case. Qingya muttered. Qing Yutong pursed her lips. This boy called Mu Gao looks honest, I reckon that he isn't Ali's type. Yihua didn't say anything. In his heart, he felt that this kind of boy wasn't worthy of his daughter. In terms of imposing manner, the difference between the two of them was too big. Looking at that expression, it seems like he wants to say something, but doesn't dare to say anything. If a man did not have courage, then he would have nothing to speak of. Senior brother Mu, you must be careful. Dong Huangli said with a joking tone. Towards Mu Gao, Dong Huangli doesn't have any enmity towards Mu Gao. It's fine for me to just casually beat Mu Gao up. Besides, my parents are still watching. Mu Gao swallowed his saliva. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating and he couldn't say a word. Dong Huangli was confused for a moment, then took the initiative to attack. Dong Huangli punched out. Ladies and gentlemen, Dong Huangli moved. The speed. As expected of the Meridian Break Sect's trump card. Even I can't see through it. When Yihua heard this, he became unhappy. It is normal for you to not be able to see it, but if you are able to see it, then that is abnormal. Boom. A gust of strong wind was emitted, causing Mu Gao's hair and clothes to flutter wildly. What are you doing? Dong Huangli asked confusedly. Dong Huangli's fist was right in front of Mu Gao. Mu Gao didn't have the heart to fight at all. Dong Huangli leaped backwards and slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Father and mother are still watching, what are you trying to do? Although Dong Huangli was teaching her little brother how to pick up girls, when this kind of thing happened to her, she wouldn't understand. This Mu Gao seems to like my sister. Seeing this, God Yi said faintly. Lu Xian'er bit onto her lower lip, then said softly, this is the type that I like. This sentence immediately caused God Yi to be unhappy. Then you have to change. God Yi said coldly. To actually say such a thing in front of me, if it was my father, what should I do? I just don't like you. After hearing what God Yi said, God Yi didn't say anything and continued looking at the stage. Lu Xian'er took a look at God Yi with her peripheral vision. This God Yi actually didn't refute. Ladies and gentlemen, this battle seems to have changed a bit. Just what is going on today? Could it be that the two trump cards of Meridian Break Sect are both going to welcome their own love? This is truly interesting. Following the host's shout, the audience immediately started whistling. If you're a real man, then go. Confess. Mu Gao, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Confess. Confess. Get the beauty back. Yi Hua's expression darkened. Even Dong Huang Baiji's expression became unstable. The subordinates were also a bit unstable. The one who had been in contact with them the longest was Ali. Ali's future husband has to pass through a lot of tests. Therefore, if one wanted to marry Ali's man, one would have to go through a lot of difficulties. An ordinary person would not be able to do that. Right now, Dong Huangli was also not able to remain calm and her beautiful face became sunken. Don't speak. Dong Huangli said gravely. Following Dong Huangli's voice, the cheers of the audience quietened down. Mu Gao was taken aback and didn't dare to speak anymore. Dong Huangli said gravely, Mu Gao, this is already very good, you know that. When Mu Gao heard what Dong Huangli said, his heart immediately became disappointed. You're a good person, I can't hold you back. The audience sighed. Although they wanted to see a different ending, this was considered a more normal ending. If Dong Huangli agreed to it, then that would be called a reversal of the situation. Right now, Mu Gao was just like a protagonist who was rejected during a martial arts competition, then worked hard to become stronger and in the end took revenge. This was a normal ending. I understand. Mu Gao said with a heartache. Originally, I was still thinking that I have the same luck as God Yi. Unfortunately, I am still too weak. If I am a bit stronger, perhaps Dong Huangli will like me. It is very normal for women to like strong men. Don't complain that a woman doesn't like you, it's just that you aren't strong enough. But when you become strong, you will discover that the woman who didn't like you back then still doesn't like you. Dong Huangli let out a breath. Fortunately, I managed to control the situation. Father won't go as far as to kill me, right? However, if Mu Gao is a bit more stubborn, then things might be different. I admit defeat. Mu Gao said lightly. He chose to admit defeat and directly returned to Meridian Break Sex Camp. This was a relationship that ended before Dong Huangli even confessed. To Dong Huangli this was nothing. However, to Mu Gao this was 12 years of love, and at this moment, it seemed like everything was gone. Big sister, you are crueler than me. Seeing that big sister had returned, God Yi said lightly. Chapter 1299. When it comes to feelings, there is nothing cruel about it. Dong Huangli said faintly. If you don't like me, then you don't like me. Don't tell me that you want me to force you to like me? God Yi nodded. A forced melon won't be sweet. Lu Xiener's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, but she didn't say anything. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. That child Ali has truly matured a lot. He no longer causes trouble like before. When a girl is outside, it is better for her to properly protect herself. Qingya said faintly. Yihua wasn't worried at all. As for his two sons, when boys are outside they have to properly protect themselves. The competition was still going on. Right now, Yihua was just waiting to watch the fight between the children. He was not interested in anything else. On the other hand, the surrounding people were very interested and were making a big fuss. Yihua leaned onto Qingya's fragrant shoulder and fell asleep. This is truly boring to the extreme. The following battle was what everyone was looking forward to. It was the battle between the trump cards of both sides. God Yi versus Yi Lu. Dong Huangli versus Yi Yan. This caused Yihua, who was asleep, to wake up, and he immediately took out a stick of cigarette to wake himself up. Only then would it be worth watching. Soon, the contestants from both sides were about to go on stage. Right at this moment, Dong Huangli said towards her younger brother, "Good luck. Don't go easy on me." Got it, sis. After all, he had grown up and God Yi would not act the way he did when he was young. God Yi turned to look at Lu Xiener and said softly, "Shouldn't you say something to me?" Lu Xiener bit her lips and did not speak. God Yi turned and flew into the void. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. Other than the flaws in his personality, this little brother of mine is actually quite a good person. If you miss out on this opportunity, you won't be able to meet him again in the future. In actuality, Dong Huangli felt that Lu Xiener liked Lu Xiener a little bit. However, since Lu Xiener was a girl, it seemed like Lu Xiener was a little bit unable to put down her pride, or perhaps, it was due to some other reason. However, Dong Huangli was sure that if Lu Xiener still had such an attitude towards Dong Huangli, her brother would rather be taught a lesson by her father than to marry such a woman. If he did, he would really get himself killed. Hearing Dong Huangli's words, Lu Xiener remained silent and did not say anything. In actuality, Dong Huangli rarely spoke up for God Yi. It wasn't that her big sister didn't want to help God Yi, but rather, if she didn't help God Yi well, it would not be good for them in the future. On the other side, Yi Yan was also talking to his sister. Lu, don't go easy this time. Do your best. Yi Yan hugged Yi Lu lightly and encouraged her. Yi Lu hugged her brother too. She nodded and then pushed him away. Brother, save your hug for other girls. Lu, what are you saying? Brother's embrace will always be the safest place for you. When you're sad, come and find me. Yi Yan smiled as he leaned against her chest. Yi Lu let out a low laugh, like 100 flowers blooming, extremely beautiful. Be serious. Let God Yi take a look. Yes, I will win. After saying that, Yi Lu flew up into the void. After 12 years, the brother and sister stared at each other again. At that moment, God Yi only had the desire to fight and nothing else in his mind. It was the same for Yi Lu now. From the first day she was admitted to the hospital, she knew that she would have to fight with her brother in the future. Today her wish was finally fulfilled. Yi Hua looked at his son and daughter, and a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. Qingye immediately teased him, "You are actually still able to laugh when you see your own son and daughter fighting each other." Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes. "Between God Yi and Yi Lu, who do you guys think is stronger?" Yi Hua asked curiously. Of course, Yi Hua wasn't asking Qingye and the others, he was asking the subordinates behind them. This question was rather difficult. Both of them are little sovereigns, it doesn't seem right to say who is stronger, right? Your Honor, Dou Fusher raised his hand. Lai Gu hurriedly said. Dou Fusher, who was sitting in the group, stiffened. How many years has it been? Why am I the one who gets injured every single time? I, Dou Fusher, am also a respectable person, alright? Dou Fusher, tell us. Yi Hua said faintly. In his heart, he knew that these people were tricking Dou Fusher, and this kind of habit had been going on for many years. This also resulted in Dou Fusher being the first person to answer every question. Dou Fusher rubbed his forehead and asked left and right for help. However, all of his subordinates immediately turned their heads and pretended not to see anything. In any case, this wasn't the first time. Your Honor, in subordinates' humble opinion, both little sovereigns should be very powerful. What else could Dou Fusher say? Even his Honor's questions are so thorny. Of course, do I need you to say that? Yi Hua said faintly. Dou Fusher immediately shut his mouth. Yi Hua looked at the children in the sky and sighed in his heart. Back then, when I sent them out, they were only as tall as my knees. Right now, God Yi is about the same height as me. Everyone. The battle that everyone has been looking forward to is about to begin. God Yi against Yi Lu. Both of them have the same surname Yi, just who is more powerful. Let us wait and see. God Yi looked at Yi Lu and Yi Lu did the same as well. The two of them were actually sighing in their hearts. Back then, when we separated, we were still so young, and now we have already become adults. Lu is truly becoming more and more beautiful. Yi Lu was also thinking in her heart. Big brother is becoming more and more handsome, he is even taller than me. I remember that when I was young, I was still taller than him. If it was possible, the brother and sister would like to hug each other before fighting. However, the brother and sister knew that they cannot fight with their full strength. After all, if they were to do that, it would be rather shocking. God Yi took the initiative to release his aura. He wanted to see what his little sister had learned after so many years. A majestic aura instantly spread out. Yi Lu was not to be outdone. Her aura spread out, and the two powerful Duki immediately clashed. At that moment, the MC was extremely excited. So strong. So strong. Are these the trump cards of both sides? In that case, the competition just now is just a child's play. This is a real battle. The Duki emitted by the two clashed fiercely, emitting a dazzling light. The brother and sister were the kind of people who did not speak much. The opening was a battle of Duki. Not bad. God Yi said calmly. Yi Lu said coldly, you too. Then let me see how strong you are. God Yi stretched out his palm and a long sword appeared in his hand. It was a rather ordinary one. However, Yi Lu did not use a long sword. That was because the two of them did not plan to use any other moves. They were both prepared to use what they had learned over the years to fight. Divine Book 3, Scarlet Lightning. Yi Lu's slender index finger suddenly shot out a red electric current, crackling throughout the entire place. God Yi said calmly, if that's all, then I'll be disappointed. God Yi stretched out his left hand. Without even using a sword, he directly grabbed the electric current and squeezed it hard. It disappeared. The audience was silent. He used his hand to settle it. This God Yi was too strong. Chapter 1300. Yi Yen looked at God Ye's move and the corner of his mouth curled up. This God Yi is showing off now. He actually grabbed it with his bare hands. Doesn't it hurt? At that moment, Lu Xian'er was looking at God Yi with a complicated look in her eyes. Dong Huang Li's words just now could be considered as a warning. He didn't know why, but he felt inexplicably nervous in his heart. He didn't even know why he was so nervous, or perhaps he was afraid. Shen that child, he doesn't use his weapon and insists on using his bare hands to receive the attack. Dong Huang Baiji said in displeasure. Qingye chuckled, Don't you know whose son God Yi is? Yi Hua snorted coldly. What? I feel that this move of Shin Er's is pretty good, isn't it? All of Dong Huang Baiji's subordinates didn't dare to say anything else. They were all praising God Ye's awesomeness, causing Dong Huang Baiji to roll her eyes. In the field, this was the second time the two children had a direct confrontation. Their hearts were filled with excitement and excitement. If they could, they really wanted to go all out and fight. Only then would they be able to determine the winner. Broken sword style. God Yi shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. No matter what, he had to let his sister see what he had learned all these years. The broken sword style was a set of sword techniques, and it was also one of the advanced sword techniques of the Meridian Breaking sect. For the Meridian Breaking sect to have such a prestigious reputation, the broken sword style could not go unnoticed. However, what God Yi used was not the original version of the broken sword form. He also added his own ideas to make the broken sword form even more perfect. Yi Lu's eyebrows furrowed. She had also discovered the problem. Of course, Yi Lu had done some research on the broken pulse sect sword techniques, so she knew a thing or two about it. The broken sword form had a total of 3 forms. Each form had its own uniqueness, but the third form was the most powerful. But now, it seemed that her brother had made some changes, and this change was in his footwork. Lu, don't get distracted during the battle. God Ye's figure suddenly appeared behind Yi Lu and reminded her softly. Yi Lu's eyes widened in shock. Divine Book Music, Chapter 10 Void Piercing. God Yi directly slashed down. Boom. A huge shockwave appeared at the scene, and the two of them instantly separated. The audience was silent. This was a duel between experts. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if everyone has noticed, but God Ye's broken sword form is different. His speed became even faster. Never seen before. Could it be that God Yi had secretly modified the broken sword form? This was incredible. As expected of a genius-level figure. It seems like Yi Lu of the Deity Institution is in danger. Qingya was shocked just now because God Yi seemed to have really slashed her just now. What if Luer was injured? This god. What are you doing? Little sister, you are also serious. Dong Huang Baiji was very angry. If Luer is injured, how am I going to explain to Qingya? However, in the eyes of the subordinates, this situation was nothing. It was a battle, so they should go all out. Otherwise, what was the point of fighting? However, from the looks of things, God Yi seemed to have the upper hand. After all, Meridian Break sect was considered a melee fighter, while Divine Academy was considered half a long-range fighter. If they were to compete with what they had learned, God Yi had a slight advantage. Yi Hua was naturally able to see that Shin had actually gone easy on Luer just now. If not, Luer might have already been injured by now. However, towards his son's achievements during these few years, Yi Hua felt very gratified. As for his son getting injured during the battle, that was something that was unavoidable. Of course, Yi Hua hoped that Yi Hua and his son would be able to go all out during the battle and not have any misgivings. As long as the injuries were not fatal, it would be fine. After all, it was only a spar. At that moment, Yi Yin became slightly serious. My little brother didn't just play around all these years. As expected, his strength is very strong, no different from when he was young. I wonder how my big sister's strength is now. She might even be a bit stronger than my little brother. Dong Huangli placed both of her hands behind her waist and slightly raised her head to look at the sky. Dong Huangli's expression was very calm. This battle is still worth watching. My parents will probably not be disappointed. Xian, do you wish for God Yi to win? Dong Huangli suddenly asked. Lu Xian came back to her senses and pursed her lips. Xian, if you say it out, your heart will feel better. If you keep it in your heart and don't say it out, it will actually be very uncomfortable, right? If you like him, then you like him, there's nothing to be shy about. If you still care about other people's opinions, I will talk to God Yi later on and tell him to stop pestering you. Dong Huangli wasn't joking. For her little brother to do this today, he had already lowered himself. If Lu Xian still doesn't care about it, then there is no need for him to continue. Although we are good friends, I don't wish to have such a sister-in-law. Lu Xian felt both shy and panicked. I was originally rejecting him nicely, and now that I suddenly agreed to it, isn't this a bit losing face? Who said that a girl shouldn't care about face? When the time comes, other people might even say that I was attracted by God Ye's beauty. No. Lu Xian said subconsciously. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. That's enough, from now on we are a family. When God Yi wins later on, go over and give him a hug. Hug? Lucienne felt that she wouldn't be able to do such a wild thing. Looking at the black mass of people in front of her, it is truly difficult for her to do such a thing. What are you being shy about? Sometimes a girl has to take the initiative as well. Taking the initiative is the story. If you don't take the initiative, the story won't happen automatically. Dong Huangli said with a smile. I'll give it a try. Lucienne said with a red face. I was actually moved by Ali's words. I must have gone crazy. After hearing what Dong Huangli said, she didn't say anything. She looked at her little brother who was in the sky. This is all big sister can help you with. I know that you like him, but no matter how much you like him, on the stage God Yi waved the longsword in his hand. That longsword could be considered as a relatively ordinary artifact. However, no matter how ordinary it was in front of everyone, it was still a priceless treasure. Are you still not going to show me some of your abilities? The Divine Book's music is indeed powerful, but Shin Academy doesn't have just this, right? God Yi pointed at Yi Lu and said faintly. Yi Lu had been careless just now. After all, God Ye's move was unexpected. Since you want to see it, I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Lu said coldly. At this moment, the two icicles started to become serious. Suddenly, a thick wave of battle energy gathered towards Yi Lu. Everyone could sense this terrifying pressure. In fact, many people were unable to endure this wave of battle energy, causing the two supremes of the organizing committee to appear and set up an invisible barrier. Right now the host was no longer calm. With a hoarse voice he shouted, Everyone! All kinds of audience. Could this be Shin Academy's Breaking Dawn? How is this possible? Only Dozun can use Breaking Dawn. No. One should only be able to comprehend it after reaching Dozun. And Yi Lu actually managed to use it. It can't be Shin Academy's trump card. The surprise that Yi Lu gave us is too much. Previously I thought that God Yi was slightly stronger, but my thinking was wrong. Right now the situation is 50-50. Of course, if God Yi doesn't bring out the corresponding ultimate move, the situation might not be 50-50. Chapter 1301. Not bad. The children seem to have worked hard all these years. Yi Hua had no choice but to admit that these little fellows had already matured, and in the future, they would be able to become the pillar of Yi family. However, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't think so. After all, the two of them were their children, how could they play around like this? Looking at the two of them now, it seemed like they had a deep hatred for each other, wishing for nothing more than to spill blood on the spot. I have to stop the two of them. They're being ridiculous. Donghuang Baiji couldn't bear it anymore. Swords have no eyes, what if I get injured somewhere? As a mother, I will die from heartache. You're the one messing around. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. The children wanted to have such a duel, but not only did you not support it, you even rushed over to cause trouble. You are truly becoming more and more unreasonable. Donghuang Baiji didn't pay any attention to Donghuang Baiji, and just when Donghuang Baiji was about to rush out, Yi Hua immediately sealed the Empress. While I'm at it, I also imprisoned Qingya as well. These two women in recent years, they are really becoming more and more mischievous. I, the Supreme Overlord, must have indulged them too much and didn't discipline them properly, which is why such a situation has occurred. Yi Hua, what are you doing, still not letting go of me? Qingya immediately looked at Yi Hua coldly. Yi Hua ignored the two gazes of death, and his subordinates pretended not to see or hear anything. His honor seems to have lost his temper. Qing Yutong and Qian Yuqing didn't say anything. At this time it would be best for us to not go and provoke Yi Hua, if not, when the time comes, even we would end up being imprisoned. For Yi Hua to be able to imprison the two ferocious wives, it could be seen that Yi Hua's strength was still that formidable. Yi Hua, release me or we will divorce. The Empress said darkly. Yi Hua didn't even look at her and said faintly, I don't think we are married yet. Everyone, the subordinates' scalps went numb. Is this how his honor handles the relationship between husband and wife? Wasn't this a little too cruel? However, I have also learned it. When my woman flips out, I will also learn from his honor and act like an overbearing CEO. Are you afraid or not? Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were immediately in a bad mood. It would have been fine if Qingya didn't mention marriage, but the moment Qingya mentioned marriage, they immediately became angry. How many years has it been? We haven't even had a single decent wedding. Previously, they had been talking about holding a wedding after the conquest of hegemony. Only then would it be more stylish. But all these years you've been hammering iron and haven't done anything else. If you wait until your conquest is over, who knows when you'll be able to. Are you letting go or not? Qingya and Donghuang Baiji shouted out coldly at the same time. Yihua did not speak and looked at the children silently. Qingya immediately turned to Yi Lu and prepared to shout, "Daughter, your father is abusing your mother." Yihua didn't know what Qingya wanted to do, and he immediately sealed Qingya's mouth, not even letting Donghuang Baiji off. Right now, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were unable to move at all, and they couldn't even speak at all. They could only use their gazes to tell Yihua that a quarrel was inevitable. Everyone's subordinates discovered that this doesn't seem to be a joke, they are really scolding each other. This is so scary, domestic violence, it's a real fact. However, at that moment, God Yi and Yi Lu did not know that Yihua had offended the two tigresses for the sake of the two of them fighting in peace. They did not even know if they could be appeased. What? Will I coax them? That's not going to happen. This time, I won't coax them even if I'm beaten to death, I'll just let them do whatever they want. On the battlefield, a berserk aura swept across the battlefield continuously. Yi Lu's body was enveloped by a golden light, and only a beautiful figure could be seen. God Yi slightly wrinkled his brows. Is this Shin Academy's trump card, Daybreak? It is indeed formidable. In just an instant, my little sister's strength rose by a few levels. Boom. Suddenly, a golden lightning descended from the sky that was filled with dark clouds and struck onto Yi Lu's body. Everyone cried out in surprise, thinking that an accident had occurred. However, that wasn't the case. When the golden lightning struck onto Yi Lu's body, it did not cause any damage to Yi Lu. Instead, a golden lightning effect appeared around Yi Lu's body, and it looked very scary. Daybreak, as Shin Academy's trump card, was rarely seen in the world. Even the experienced and knowledgeable host was unable to say a thing or two about it. After quite a while, the golden light on Yi Lu's body dimmed by quite a bit, and only a thin layer of golden membrane was left behind. There was even a bit of golden electric current around the membrane. At that moment, Yihua felt that if his daughter's hair turned golden, she would look a bit like the manga that he read a long time ago, Super Saiyan. Not bad, this is more like it, God Yi said faintly. Yi Lu stared at God Yi, and with a clench of her hands, a double-edged spear appeared in her hands. Flame-breaking spear. Yi Lu said coldly. Come. God Yi shouted out, not daring to be careless. Then you better watch carefully. Yi Lu said faintly. This caused God Yi to be startled. However, in that instant, Yi Lu threw out the flame-breaking spear in her hands. The speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Yi Lu, who had activated Daybreak, no matter if it was her strength, speed, or reaction, all of them had improved. This kind of improvement was very terrifying. However, from the looks of it, Yi Lu was also a javelin expert. The flame-breaking spear whistled through the air and attacked towards God Yi. Even the heavens and the earth rumbled, and the friction between the spearhead and the air produced a huge pressure. If this attack were to hit, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. In their hearts, they were thinking that if anything were to happen to the children, they would definitely teach Yihua a lesson. Even Lu Xiener had covered her eyes, not daring to watch anymore. God Yi didn't expect that Yi Lu, who was in Daybreak, would be so powerful, especially when it came to javelins. The flame-breaking spear brushed past God Ye's ear, and a strand of hair floated in the air. However, the flame-breaking spear that did not hit its target flew far away and then, boom! Everyone saw a huge explosion that happened far away. The entire ground was overturned, and not long later, a wave of air swept over. This kind of power. Everyone could only express it with their frozen expressions. When Qingya and Donghuang Baiji saw that kind of damage, they really wanted to slap the two children's butts. What's wrong with you two? Why are you two fighting each other? On the other hand, Yihua was very satisfied. Brother, be more focused during the battle. Unknowingly, Yi Lu's delicate body appeared above God Ye's head, and in her hands, another flame-breaking spear appeared. Everyone did not manage to see it clearly, but they were extremely shocked in their hearts. Could it be that this flame-breaking spear is limitless? God Yi felt a terrifying aura coming from above his head. The long sword in his hand immediately rose up and shouted out coldly, "Broken sword style. Second style. Storm wave." The body of the sword could be seen immediately shining with a huge light, just like a silver moonlight. However, this silver light, why does it look like ice? Two majestic auras clashed fiercely against each other. The golden and silver light seemed as if they were going to tear the ground apart, making it hard for people to look straight at them. Chapter 1302. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. The way the children are fighting, they are simply too reckless. In the past, when I was still young, I didn't fight with all my might like this. Back then, when I was still at home, I would always stop when the time was right. But look at what is happening right now. It was as if they were enemies that they hadn't met for many years, and they wouldn't stop until they got rid of the other party. On the other hand, Yi Hua and his subordinates admired Yi Hua's actions very much. This is what a battle should be, and it isn't like when we were young playing house. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. After all, such a battle wasn't something that could be easily seen. In particular, Yi Lu's breaking dawn was something that others might not be able to witness in their entire lives. The dazzling light gradually dissipated, and a figure suddenly descended. Boom! The maple forest valley below suddenly shook, and a crater was formed. Countless maple trees in the surroundings were broken, and the sight of it made one's heart ache. Yi Lu stood in the air and looked down. She was like a goddess, exuding an aura that no one dared to blaspheme. Since Yi Lu was still standing, the person who just landed must be God Yi. The Empress was completely flustered. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared fixedly at Yi Hua, as if anything were to happen to my son, I will fight it out with you. Once again Yi Hua ignored the Empress's gaze. If God Yi were to lose so easily, then he wouldn't be God Yi. Lu Xiener now knew that the one who fell was God Yi. She was extremely worried, and her tightly clenched palms were full of sweat. Yi Hua took a look at Dong Huangli, who was beside him. Dong Huangli's expression was the same as before, and there wasn't a single bit of worry on her face. However, the situation that happened next caused everyone to be shocked. Even Yi Hua went into a daze for a moment. Donghuang Baiji was about to collapse, and Qingya wished that she could grab onto Yi Lu's butt and spank him. Because Yi Lu raised the spear in her hand. This action of his, it was very obvious that he knew what she wanted to do. Wow! The fire-breaking spear left Yi Lu's hand and flew toward the landing point. The terrifying pressure swept across the scene again. All of the subordinates were a bit stupefied. Little Honor is acting like this, isn't he afraid of being taught a lesson? Brother-in-law, let's just forget about it. Qing Yutong couldn't help but say. Yi Hua did not say anything and continued to watch the battle. Qing Yutong did not continue speaking. She knew that no matter what she said right now, it would be useless. Look at the Empress, she is already crying. My big sister is also about the same. Brother-in-law is really... Let's see how you are going to clean up the mess in the future. Everyone had seen the destructive power of the flame breaker spear. If it landed, the entire maple forest valley would probably turn into ashes. Within everyone's eyes, the golden flame-breaking spear seemed to be very frightened. The third move of the broken sword style. Release. A figure came from below. Needless to say, it was definitely God Yi. Furthermore, what he used was the broken sword style's ultimate. Liberation. This was the meridian-breaking sect's specialty, and it was similar to Yi Lu's breaking dawn. They were both trump cards. The host lost his composure again and shouted, "It's actually the third move. It was the third style of the broken sword style. My God. Today I actually got to see Meridian Break Sect and God Academy's ultimate technique. This is simply an eye-opener for me. Even if I were to go to the Western Paradise now, I would still be able to die without any regrets." Everyone had heard of the third style, but they had never heard of it. In any case, it was a very awesome style. Suddenly, a huge amount of Do Chi surged from below. This Do Chi appeared very calm and reserved, but it had a very strong offensive nature. Bang! The smoke produced by the collision was instantly blown away. God Yi's figure appeared. However, everyone had never seen God Yi in this state of mind before. The long sword in his hand had already disappeared, and a set of silver armor suddenly appeared on his body. He was fully armed, and even his hands and feet were wrapped in armor. Everyone stared at God Yi in a daze. So handsome, so handsome. Even Yehua felt that he was simply a super handsome man. As expected of the main body's son. Seeing that her son was fine, the Empress breathed a sigh of relief. On the other hand, when Qingya saw God Yi, she began to worry about her daughter again. It must have been hard on those two mothers. Heavenly Wolf Jade Emperor. God Yi stared at Yi Lu in the air and said calmly. Although Yi Lu was surprised, she quickly calmed down. The third move of the broken sword style. That was to release one's own weapon. That was the most powerful part of the broken sword style. Integrating the weapon into one's body would result in a qualitative change. Yi Lu had never seen it before. That was the first time. This meridian-breaking sect was indeed powerful. God Yi looked at the falling flame-breaking spear and raised his right hand. Everyone was shocked by that action. What was God Yi trying to do? Was he going to catch the blade with his bare hands again? That was right. His dragon claw-like palm grabbed the spear head. Poof! A terrifying wave of air suddenly spread out, and the ground under God Ye's hand sank a little more. But he caught it. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Such a terrifying explosion just now, but now he could catch it with just his right hand. That was too ridiculous. However, what was even more ridiculous was that God Yi grabbed the spearhead tightly and tightened it. Gotcha. A crack could be seen with the naked eye. The crack instantly spread to the entire spear body, and then it shattered. Yi Lu frowned. Her brother could actually hold the flame-breaking spear. How was that possible? Just as Yi Lu was in a daze, God Yi disappeared. Yi Lu's eyes were filled with horror, and a sense of terror spread in her heart. Divine Book, Chapter 89, Skybreaker. Yi Lu shouted. Everyone was shocked once again. Yi Yin did not manage to chant it earlier, but Yi Lu could do it as well. He was indeed the trump card of the Divine Academy. Too powerful. Bang. However, under God Ye's feet, Skybreaker shattered with a kick. That kind of terrifying power shocked Yi Lu. This meridian-breaking sex release was too powerful, especially when the user was her brother. Yi Lu formed another flame-breaking spear with both of her hands, and God Ye's feet landed on the spear body. Yi Lu retreated a few steps back. Fortunately, Skybreaker reduced some of the force. Looking at her brother who only had his eyes exposed, Yi Lu's breathing became a little rushed. God Ye's body disappeared again. His speed was too fast and it was impossible to catch him. Yi Lu was indeed shocked, but she was still able to catch up to her brother's speed. The whole place was filled with banging sounds. A huge pressure hit on the barrier, making people worry if the barrier would be damaged. Yi Hua even strengthened the barrier himself to not disturb the children's mood. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji swore that they would never forgive Yi Hua this time. Looking at the two children bleeding as mothers, their hearts ached to death. It was the first time they met for 12 years and they saw the children killing each other. Is this Yi Hua's way of education? It's simply cruel. However, the audience was indeed satisfied. It was a battle that was rarely seen in 100 years. Such young children. They were already so powerful. Chapter 1303. Yi Yen became a little serious at that moment. His brother and sister were both suppressing their strength and using the knowledge they had learned over the years. Could be said that they had a 50-50 chance of winning. However, it seemed that God Yi had the upper hand. That also showed that Meridian Break Sect was indeed stronger than Shin Academy. After all, Meridian Break Sect belonged to the melee category. Shin Academy's melee combat was not mainstream, and neither was Taoism. It was more balanced and did not stand out. He had previously discussed with his sister about their fighting style. It was indeed difficult to win against God Yi, unless they did not use anything from Shin Academy and went all out to fight God Yi. Breaking Dawn was considered the top martial arts technique of Shin Academy, but unexpectedly, it was still weaker than Broken Sword style. Therefore Yi Yen and Yi Lu concluded that they had to fight with their brains and not rely on fighting head-on. That way they would definitely have no chance of winning. The key to victory was still the Divine Book movement. However, Yi Lu raised her own opinion. No matter how much they suppressed their strength, the toughness of their bodies was there. The Divine Book movement could not defeat her brother. Yi Yen knocked his sister's head, indicating that they did not want to beat the opponent until he could not stand up, but to let God Yi know that the brain was good and defeat the opponent with strategy. Didn't Dad always say to use your brain? We should follow suit. At that moment, Yi Lu remembered the conversation with her brother and immediately distanced herself from him. A few wounds had already appeared on her body. God Ye's armor also had cracks. That was simply cheating. Look at your sister. She did not even wear armor. As the brother, she still wore armor. How could she be a brother? She deserved a beating. What? Are you admitting defeat? God Yi asked calmly. Although he said that, he knew in his heart that his sister was not the kind of person who would admit defeat. She probably wanted to use other methods to defeat him. After all, he could see his own shortcomings. It was impossible to defeat him by attacking. His sister would definitely start with the Divine Book movement. Last night, he discussed with his sister about the fighting style. In terms of offense, Meridian Break Sect was stronger than Shin Academy. That was why his sister used Breaking Dawn to fight him head-on. She realized that she did not gain anything and could only stop now. She must be using the divine book movement now, and it was different from before. Big sister's words were still lingering in Luer's mind. If Luer wants to win against you, she will definitely have to use her brain. There are a lot of traps in the Holy Book's music, and if all of them are combined together, it would be very powerful. Therefore, if he wanted to defeat Yi Lu, he had to end the battle as soon as possible. You are very strong, Yi Lu said indifferently. Thank you. But you're definitely going to lose today, Yi Lu declared. She was going to beat her brother today. God Yi was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, Lose? I hope you can accept this ending. Then you'll have to bring out even more strength, Yi Lu said coldly. Both of his hands immediately emitted out a green-colored glazed light, and he slowly shouted out, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 41 Ning. However, before Yi Lu could finish, God Yi shouted coldly, Kill! The whole world seemed to have quietened down as if time had stopped. No one could say a word. The situation in front of them was completely incomprehensible. Sister, you've lost. God Yi appeared behind Yi Lu and whispered in her ear. 5 dragon claw-like fingers were pressed against Yi Lu's jade neck. All it would take was a light stroke to destroy her. Yi Lu breathed a sigh of relief, then said indifferently, I've lost. At that moment, Yi Lu had to admit that she did not see her brother's movements clearly. Even though they were in the same realm, her brother was still stronger than her. It seemed that she had not trained hard enough for so many years. She had to continue working hard in the future. God Yi chuckled. Lu, I'm very happy to see you. You're getting more and more beautiful. I'm not going easy anymore. Yi Lu snorted softly, hammered her brother, then landed. God Yi laughed in his heart. Oh Lu, you only realized now. In the past I always went easy on you. If I didn't, how could you be my opponent? However, if it was her brother, God Yi looked at Yi Yan and Yi Yan looked back at God Yi. Their gazes met, and the friction seemed to ignite the desire for battle. So surprising. So exciting. This battle is enough for me to brag about for the rest of my life. Yi Lu's strength showed us the strength of Shinshin Academy. But God Yi, he's even more powerful, and the last killing intent defeated Yi Lu. As expected of the meridian-breaking sect. The audience suddenly cheered. The armor on God Ye's body dissipated, turning into the shape of a sword in my hand, then disappeared. Dong Huangli poked Lucienne, then took the initiative to go up and give her a hug. Lucienne was extremely nervous. Forget about hugging, she could not even say a word. The battle just now made Lucienne extremely nervous, but she also wanted to see God Ye's majesty. As expected, a man who attracts women is like this. That aura during battle, bringing victory and triumph. Which woman can withstand God Ye's charm? After being threatened by God Yi, Lucienne seemed to be afraid. God Yi walked towards Lucienne. Lucienne lowered her head, not daring to look at him. Her pretty face looked like it was about to bleed. She was screaming in her heart, Don't come over. Don't come over. However, a masculine aura came over, and her heartbeat accelerated as if it was about to jump out of her throat. Sienne, God Yi called out softly. Lucienne really wanted to faint and not know anything after that. Dong Huangli said faintly, Brother, Sienne wants to give you a hug, but I'm shy. After hearing that, God Yi went into a daze, appearing to be a little surprised. Then he looked at Lucienne, who had her head lowered, and asked faintly, You want to hug me? Lucienne did not know why, but she felt like hammering the man in front of her to death. I'm older than you. You should have some manners. Therefore, Lucienne said seriously, Be more polite. Right after she said that, Lucienne felt a huge inertia, and her body was already leaning into God Ye's embrace. This should be considered polite, God Yi said faintly. His tone was filled with madness and dominance. Men should be like this, never be afraid and never let go of an opportunity. Smelling a special smell, Lucienne subconsciously hugged onto God Ye's waist. I'm sorry, I smell a little sweaty, God Yi said softly. At first, Lucienne was still very shy, but after hearing that, she immediately pushed him away. That really is a special smell, it really ruined the atmosphere. Dong Huangli originally thought that her brother was a challenger, but in the end she did not expect him to be a bronze. The atmosphere was just right, and you already said that he smelled like sweaty. Everyone else would think that this was a sign of manliness. Chapter 1304. Brother, I lost. Yi Lu came to Yi Yan's side and said apologetically. Yi Yan smiled, patted his sister's shoulder and said, "It's fine. That guy God Yi came out earlier than you. Let big brother teach him a lesson later." Yi Lu rolled her eyes at her brother. What does this have to do with being born earlier or later? Big brother when you fight against big sister later on? Yi Lu was a bit worried. Dong Huangli is the big sister, and according to your logic if you were born earlier than her, you wouldn't be a match for her. Yi Yan put away his frivolous expression and said seriously, "Although it will be very difficult, I still want to win against big sister." "Brother, be careful. I'm not like God Yi," Yi Lu reminded him carefully. Yi Yan nodded. Of course he knew. Although his sister didn't cultivate much when she was young, she was actually stronger than him. Moreover, after so many years. At that moment Yi Hua felt gratified. God Yi is still the same as always, especially that last move. It's pretty good. When it came to martial techniques, Yi Hua's forte wasn't Yi Hua's forte, and Yi Hua had to rely on his own strength to fight. Therefore Yi Hua's children should also learn more about martial techniques, and this was also one of the reasons why Yi Hua's children were sent out. Whoa! Qingya and Donghuang Baiji let out muffled sounds, and their beautiful eyes stared straight at Yi Hua. Yi Hua ignored them once again. "No matter what, you all have to shut up for me today. Don't disturb me from watching the children's performance." Yi Hua was very much looking forward to the next battle. Between Ali and Yin, I wonder who is stronger between the two. Yi Hua felt that it should be Ali. After all, Ali was the one who inherited Yi Hua's deviant flame. Suddenly Yi Hua thought about it. It seems like we can only use the deviant flame that we have learned. This is hard to say. Yin might even be able to give me a pleasant surprise. After all, among the four children, Yin was the one who had changed the most. Although Yin seemed to be smiling mischievously, Yi Hua could still feel that Yin had changed the most. "Sister, be careful," God Yi reminded his sister who was about to walk out. "Okay, I got it." "Brother seems to be different from before," God Yi murmured. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. "I can sense it. However, Yin, you have been following behind me since a long time ago, and it will still be the same in the future." God Yi did not say anything after hearing that. His sister seemed very confident. God Yi was a little worried as he watched his sister fly into the void. Will he win? Lu Xian'er murmured. "Call me big sister from now on, okay?" Oh. Seemingly having admitted to their relationship, Lu Xian'er loosened up a lot. The host became excited again and shouted, "Everyone! Everyone! Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were going to fight again." I don't know what kind of surprise this battle will bring us. I'm afraid it will be even more explosive than the last battle. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked at the children who were in the middle of the stage, and they were so angry that their teeth started to itch. They really wanted to press Yi Hua down onto the ground and beat him, all kinds of beatings. To actually look at the children fighting and not even stop them, is there a father like you? While smoking, Yi Hua looked at the two children and felt very satisfied in his heart. The subordinates looked at the two little sovereigns and revealed a happy expression on their faces. Especially when they looked at Ali, their eyes were filled with love. Little Ali was the happiest person in the team. In the field, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were currently looking at each other. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan's gazes were cold and ordinary, as if the two of them weren't siblings at all, but enemies. His acting skills were not bad. As a member of the Yi clan, how could he not have some acting skills? Yi Yan suddenly opened his folding fan and lightly fanned himself. "You seem to be very strong. You aren't weak either," Dong Huangli said faintly. "I will win against you today." Yi Yan's words were filled with incomparable confidence. This caused Dong Huangli to be a bit puzzled. Seems like little brother has a trump card. But then again, I have a trump card as well. Furthermore, father and mother are watching right now. I can't afford to lose this battle. After all, I, Dong Huangli, am father and mother's pride. Although Yi Yan didn't know that his parents were watching right now, he was thinking in his heart, I can't lose to big sister. If this matter were to spread to father's ears, how embarrassing would that be? Boys can't even win against girls. Dong Huangli said faintly, "If you want to win against me, you will have to see what abilities you have learned." "That is only natural. When have I ever disappointed you before?" Yi Yan kept his folding fan and threw it towards Yi Lu. Yi Lu held onto the folding fan firmly. Dong Huangli looked at the flute on Yi Yan's waist. Of course, she knew that this flute was given to Yi Yan by his father when he was young. It can be said that, out of the four children, Yi Yan's flute was the most awesome. Yi Yan took out the dragon abyss on his waist, played with it for a bit in front of his big sister, then threw it towards Yi Lu as well. Yi Yan was clearly telling big sister that even without using this flute, little brother can still win against you. Looking at her little brother's actions, Dong Huangli didn't say anything. This brat is really arrogant now, he actually dares to act cool in front of big sister. I will let you know the consequences of acting cool later on. It has been 12 years since we last met, why? Do you want to act cool with big sister now? This is what Yi Yan is thinking. When I was young, big sister brought little brother along to act cool and fly around. Now that you have grown up, it is time for little brother to bring big sister along to fly around. This is truly unimaginable. Yi Yan from Shin Academy actually threw out his own weapon. What is the meaning of this? Is it for? Or is he already trying to find an excuse for losing? Following the host's voice, Dong Huangli sneered. If not for the host's reminder, she would have almost been tricked by her little brother. Yi Yan cursed at the host in his heart. Such a deep trick was actually seen through by you. You are truly wasting so many expressions. Let's begin then. Dong Huangli said with a slight smile. Yi Yan clenched his fists tightly and even slightly bent down, just like a ferocious tiger that was about to hunt. However, Dong Huangli didn't even try to defend herself, and even placed both of her hands behind her back. Her acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Seeing his big sister's movements, Yi Yan slightly went into a daze. Then he looked at his own movements. Seems like, it's not symmetrical, this way I seem very low. As expected of big sister, even after so many years have passed, she is still the same as before. However, Yi Yan's figure instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that no one was able to react to his speed. This speed is even a bit faster than God Ye's speed just now. Furthermore, right now Yi Yan didn't even use any martial skills, and God Yi was still using broken sword style. Big sister. Yi Yan's figure instantly appeared behind Dong Huangli's back, and with a karate chop. It seems like knocking big sister unconscious is the best way to win. Dong Huangli said lightly, Yan, when did you learn to attack from the back? Attack when they are unprepared. Yi Yan said faintly. Are you sure that you want to attack when they are unprepared? Dong Huangli said faintly. This caused Yi Yan's brows to become wrinkled. Green smoke could be seen floating out from Dong Huangli's body. Yi Yan's face turned pale with fright and subconsciously dodged. Furthermore, he pulled Dong Huangli to a safe position. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.